Get out of an unhealthy relationship, heal from past wounds, and find peace within yourself again. You've found the guides to support anyone who has been involved with a narcissist or abusive partner. Disarm toxic people, heal from trauma, and move on to a happier life.
Hello, this is Eva Spencer, and you are listening to Codependency and Narcissistic Abuse, the complete codependent and narcissism recovery guide for identifying, disarming, and dealing with narcissists and abusive relationships, provided to you by United Audiobooks. I hope you enjoy my audiobook. Now, let us begin.
Chapter 1. Codependency, the Opponent. In order to ensure another's happiness, a codependent person will go to considerable measures, even at the expense of their own health and well-being. Many enablers are willing to put their own convictions and conscience aside to meet the needs of the person they are enabling. When the enabled person allows or even encourages this behavior, it is only possible for it to continue. The commitment and concern that a codependent person has for the enabled's happiness are manifested in their actions and attitudes towards them. Codependency is defined as a relationship in which one or both partners are currently suffering from, or have previously suffered from, substance abuse, mental illness, or family trauma. Developing a codependent relationship as a means of coping with the pressures of one's life is an acquired response to traumatic life experiences. If you find yourself inhibiting any of these behaviors or experiencing these feelings, especially if you can determine you may have had traumatic life situations, it is very possible you are engaged in a codependent relationship. What is codependency? Codependency refers to an addiction to another person, rather than a substance such as alcohol or drugs. Because of substance abuse and addiction, even the most intimate interpersonal connections can become strained or broken. Because it is difficult for someone suffering from an addiction to maintain good relationships, codependency and addiction are frequently observed in tandem. Those who have grown up in a codependent household are more likely than others to acquire codependency due to their upbringing and experiences in the home. The term codependency was first used in the context of families in which one or more members were struggling with alcoholism or drug addiction, respectively. As a result, the word has come to describe the dynamics of a family in which one or more members is battling alcoholism or drug addiction. Numerous dysfunctional family systems can result in the development of codependent relationships, and in many dysfunctional family systems, those codependent relationships are maintained. People who are battling addiction or mental illness are more likely to fall into various codependency roles, which might be beneficial in some situations. Others will become caretakers, which assists the addict with his or her addiction. If a person experiences enough enjoyment and fulfillment as a result of having to care for their partner, codependency can progress to addiction for them as well. Because they all feed into one another's existence cycle, it might be difficult to determine which condition arose first. People who have a better awareness of the underlying reasons for addiction and codependency are better able to recognize when it is time to seek treatment for their problems. The use of manipulative behavior to obtain one's sense of self-worth when one's sense of self-worth is related to another person's affection and acceptance can be defined as follows. It is not uncommon for the term manipulation to refer to a sleight of hand trick, despite how horrible it sounds, when it really means the action of manipulating something in a skillful manner. For many people, the concept of codependency is a tough one to fathom. Some people may interpret it as a state of being clingy or needy, but codependency is a potentially harmful mental and behavioral tendency that can be passed down from generation to generation. In some circles, the term relationship dependence or relationship addiction has been used to describe this phenomenon. When it is someone's first time encountering codependency, it can be an incredibly difficult condition to break. The ability for the other person in the relationship to change their behavior and establish a healthy relationship is attainable if they are provided with the appropriate resources and direction. The first step in beginning recovery is determining where things went wrong in the first place. Are you in a codependent relationship? You may not even be aware that you're in a codependent relationship. Here are some conditions, behaviors, or beliefs that will help you to determine if you are. Your interests are few or non-existent outside of the relationship. They have no hobbies or ideas of their own. If you do, you don't actively pursue them. Instead, a significant deal of your satisfaction and self-esteem is gained from your participation in the relationship. Expression or contemplation of one's own desires and aspirations can sometimes result in feelings of guilt, particularly when done in public. It is possible for those who have them to have feelings that are suppressed or difficult to comprehend. Despite the cruelty and violence of an abusive other, most people who are in an abusive relationship will choose to remain in it. When someone is always concerned about the well-being of someone else, but is powerless to do anything to make that person feel better or right, or to create the perfect environment for the enabled person's happiness, no matter what actions are taken, they are said to be walking on eggshells. What's your damage? Codependency impairs your ability to form and sustain healthy interpersonal relationships in a variety of ways. People must recognize that they need to break free from codependent tendencies in order to completely support their own desires, aspirations, and physical and mental health. Codependents are referred to as reactionary in the literature. This is because a pattern of responding or reacting to the difficulties of others, as well as their own difficulties, will develop. Due to the stressful nature of alcoholism and other addictive behaviors, these reactions are employed as coping methods to deal with frequently unpredictable situations. Stress is something that all people have to deal with on a daily basis, and it is an unavoidable aspect of our lives. We all have different preferences for how we respond and act in specific situations. When it comes to dealing with life's difficulties, many individuals are utterly at a loss as to where to begin the process. Maintaining your composure in the face of adversity can have a huge positive impact on your overall health and well-being. However, the label of codependency is not a medical diagnosis, though it can lead to sickness and interfere with your development. Codependency can exhaust a person and may affect how they interact with others. Some of those who are close to you may get sick as a result of your actions, making it difficult for them to take responsibility for their own health. If you have codependency, it is possible that you've grown to believe that your reactions are normal and that this is the only way things could possibly be. It is natural for a person to feel safer as they become more and more familiar with a scenario. However, the desire to be required and the necessity of being required are two different emotions. As soon as you are separated from the person with whom you have formed an emotional attachment, you begin to feel physically uncomfortable. A person's sense of self begins to dissolve the instant they are no longer a part of the addicted or abuser's lives. And as a result, they feel abandoned. The journey is hard and taxing, but trust the process. The results are worth every step. Being free of the codependent mindset is immensely liberating in ways you can't even imagine at first. Chapter 2: To Catch a Codependent Cycle. What's the cause? In certain cases, Codependency is a taught condition that has been passed down from generation to generation. In the process of observational learning, children learn to become increasingly reliant on their caretakers as they get older. If a child has a strong emotional attachment to the codependent parent, it is absolutely critical that they do not witness their parents in a codependent relationship with one another. While they are in a good mood, they take advantage of the opportunity to learn from their partners and other people. Putting someone else's needs ahead of one's own is something that happens all the time. Those who were raised by codependent parents are more likely than others to recreate the dysfunction in their own lives, often without even realizing it, because of their lack of life experience. Children who have experienced parental absence, neglect, or apathy are more prone than other children to develop codependency as a result. Children are particularly susceptible due to the fact that they are reliant on their parents or guardians for their survival. If these prerequisites are not met, they will grow up believing that they are unlovable or that the people who care about them are untrustworthy. If their parents have alcohol or drug addictions, spend a lot of time away from home, or abuse other family members, the needs of their children may be neglected. When a child has been mistreated or neglected, it is not uncommon for them to develop an emotional dependence on their caregivers for the well-being of their families. What to look out for? There are 3 stages of codependency that are distinct from one another. They are: early stage. Codependents become increasingly reliant on a single person, which is detrimental to their overall health and well-being. They either overlook or justify when someone else engages in undesirable behavior. For the sake of pleasing others, they may put their own social life and interests on the back burner, which may result in them becoming increasingly lonely. Being driven by a desire for other people's approval, as well as a want to see your family and friends happy, are both inherent human needs. But there is a distinction between these natural impulses and the need to please everyone at all times. People pleasers frequently assume that they have no choice but to make other people happy in order to be happy themselves. Although they understand that pleasing others is intrinsically contradictory to their own objectives and requirements, they find it difficult to say no. Codependent relationships are characterized by low self-esteem on the part of both partners. Only when one person enjoys the approval of the other, or when one person is of service to the other, can either person feel a feeling of purpose. For example, poor self-esteem can be experienced by a codependent person since they must rely on their partner in the relationship to meet their financial needs. In other instances, they need to seek approval from their partner. Or the domineering behavior of the dependent person can be motivated by a deep-seated worry that the other person will abandon them. Middle stage. Anxiety, guilt, and a sense of personal responsibility for your actions rise in direct proportion to the intensity of the actions. Codependents have a difficult time maintaining their self-esteem because they may spend an increased amount of time in the relationship while obtaining little in exchange. As a result, anger, impatience, and bitterness can emerge. It is possible that a drug addict is seeking to alter their partner by nagging, blaming, or otherwise manipulating them in an attempt to influence their behavior. If you believe that your loved one is acting dishonestly, you should inform their friends and relatives. Alcoholism and substance misuse, as well as malnutrition and a sedentary lifestyle, are all related to the behaviors of excessive gambling and shopping. Codependent, subservient, and dependent conduct becomes increasingly prevalent as a result of all of this. It is common for those who are involved on both sides of a codependent relationship to have difficulty recognizing, respecting, and enforcing their own individual limits. Boundaries are beneficial as long as each person respects the sentiments and independence of the other person. Accepting that you are not responsible for the happiness of another person is also an important element of the process. One difficulty that frequently arises in codependent relationships is that one partner fails to recognize and enforce boundaries, while the other partner fails to recognize and enforce boundaries. However, while the other person is in control of the situation and manipulating it in order to gain control over it, both parties stay passive and passively submissive. One of the most important and difficult skills that families acquire in counseling is establishing and maintaining boundaries. Late stage. Given the nature of these issues, each person involved can have a substantial impact on the dynamics of a relationship. It is unavoidable that you will run into difficulties if they are unable to communicate effectively or respect boundaries. Caretakers are frequently under enormous pressure to ensure that everything is done correctly, while individuals for whom they are responsible are frequently concerned that they will be abandoned by the people for whom they are accountable. Even though they are both afraid of being alone, neither of them is content. Although there are unlikely to be many disagreements, both people involved are likely to be concerned as a result of the situation in which they find themselves. Individuals who suffer from codependency may face physical and mental anguish as a result of their addiction to another person. Health problems such as sleep problems, sciatica, headaches, and muscle discomfort might arise as a result of this chronic stress. When there is a drug problem present, addiction becomes more severe. As a result, both your self-esteem and your ability to care for your own needs are reduced. If you live in this environment, you are enveloped in an atmosphere of fear, making you feel helpless, dejected, and even furious. This is going to be a very, very precipitous side in the coming months. If you are codependent, you have an immediate need to provide a helping hand to someone who is in pain. Because of these emotional and behavioral problems, your physical health is beginning to deteriorate. Stress-related ailments can manifest themselves in the form of symptoms such as digestive and sleep issues, headaches, muscle tension or discomfort, eating disorders, TMJ, allergies, and sciatica, among others. There has been an increase in the prevalence of OCD and other addictions, as well as a decrease in the individual's sense of self-worth and self-care over time. It is inevitable that feelings of despair, rage, sorrow, and melancholy would deepen with time.
I hope you are enjoying my audiobook so far. It would be a pleasure if you could let me know how you are feeling about this audiobook in the comments section below. We would greatly appreciate it if you could also like this video and subscribe to United Audiobooks to have access to more best-selling audiobooks in the future. Also, please, if you are interested in getting more free audiobooks, please click the first link in the description below. Now, let us carry on with the next chapter.
Chapter 3. The Signs and Signals. Some issues cannot be resolved by the use of either help or saving techniques. Making someone's abusive conduct better by being the ideal lover or family member will not help. It will also not help them overcome their addiction. The majority of individuals require mental health care before they can stop abusing others. People who are addicted to drugs or alcohol may also require treatment. Several behaviors that many individuals associate with codependency include, but are not limited to, attractions to alcoholics, drug addicts, or people with other similar dependents, as well as an attraction to people who are always emotionally unavailable, among other things. They have the impression that in order for their life to be worthwhile, they must be in a relationship with someone, anyone. Attempting to influence the behavior of others, particularly loved ones. When someone believes they are powerless to stop a relationship that they know is unhealthy for them, or when they believe they are unhappy while trying to please everyone else and never taking time for themselves, or when they believe they have forgotten that they need to take care of themselves. You may encounter these situations on a regular basis, and some may find it to be a recurring, painful theme in their life. Recovery may be a very healing and satisfying means of breaking free from old patterns of thought and action. 10 signs of codependency in a person. Low self-esteem. Having poor self-esteem is characterized by the belief that you're not good enough or comparing yourself to others. Low self-esteem is frequently accompanied by feelings of guilt and perfectionism. Because it's not perfect, it only appears or seems perfect. Other esteem is a term by experts used to describe codependent behavior. In contrast to self-esteem, other esteem is an indication of codependency where you might determine your worth based on the conduct, opinions, or relationships of others, or by making direct comparisons with them. People-pleasing. Wanting to please someone a person cares about is understandable, but codependents often believe that they have no choice but to please them. You're anxious when you're told to say no. It takes 2 things to make codependence a part of any relationship. First, the people pleaser must say yes far more often than no. And second, the other person must not only accept this, but also expect it in the relationship going forward. Once that dynamic has been established, it is extremely difficult to break the pattern. Poor boundaries. It is difficult to distinguish between codependence and non-dependence. Some people believe they are responsible for the feelings and issues of others, while others believe they are responsible for their own feelings and problems. The limits of some codependents are rather rigid. People find it difficult to become close to them since they are closed up and withdrawn. Building healthy boundaries allows us to express our thoughts and feelings in a way that is not offensive to others. When you set clear boundaries, you are better equipped to communicate with others when they are acting in ways that make you feel uncomfortable. Developing healthy boundaries and overcoming codependency is not something that can be accomplished simply, and often requires the assistance and support of a counselor or therapist in order to begin learning how to have healthy relationships. Reactivity. Because of insufficient boundaries, you are reactive to the thoughts and feelings of everyone around you. When someone says something you don't agree with, you have 2 options: either trust them or become defensive. In the absence of a boundary, you would know that their point of view did not represent your own and that you would not be threatened by conflicts with others. Caretaking. Even while it's natural to feel empathy for another person, codependents begin to prioritize other people's well-being over their own. In actuality, you may be in need of assistance and may feel rejected if another person declines to accept your help. Overall, caretaking is associated with codependency because it is rooted in insecurity and the codependent's need to create control over one's own life. Caregiving should be an act of kindness and love on the part of the caregiver. Control. Control is one of the key signs of codependency, whether it be control over oneself or control over others. It becomes confused with the concept of power. Because codependents lack a sense of personal authority in their life, they resort to manipulating and controlling others to get what they want. Instead of focusing on their own pleasure, which would be empowering, codependents place their attention on external factors, such as others' happiness. If you find yourself exerting power over others, and attempting to dominate the relationship through manipulation. It is possible you are codependent and need to address and change this behavior. Problems with communicating. Communicating their thoughts, feelings, and needs can be difficult for those who are codependent. Due to your concern about upsetting someone else, you are apprehensive about being truthful. This means that another area in which codependents face difficulties is communication. They cannot say no without feeling bad, and they become resentful when they agree to do things that they would prefer not to do in the first place. This is due to their aversion to taking a position at all costs, which stems from their fear of being rejected. They're like astute politicians who don't want to say anything that would offend or irritate someone else. Obsessions. Individuals suffering from codependency have a tendency to spend their time worrying about other people or interpersonal interactions. Because of their reliance, as well as their anxieties and fears, they become depressed and anxious. Most codependents are obsessed with the people they love and care about, even when those people's issues are not their own. In other cases, they may get obsessed and worried about the conduct of an addict, not recognizing that they have become as fascinated with him or her as the alcoholic is with a drink. When a person is obsessed with anything, they can use it to fuel compulsive attempts to exert control over others, such as following someone, reading someone else's diaries, emails or texts, diluting bottles of wine, hiding keys, or searching for narcotics. None of this is beneficial. Rather, it merely exacerbates the turmoil and strife. The more you become obsessed with someone else, the more you become preoccupied with yourself. When you're asked how you're doing, you may swiftly shift the conversation to the person you're madly in love with. Denial. Codependents are unable to acknowledge their own emotions and demands. Sometimes they don't recognize their own emotions and are instead preoccupied with those of other people. It is difficult for codependents to recognize their own feelings and emotions. What people genuinely feel is either minimized, distorted, or denied outright. Individuals with this outlook regard themselves as entirely unselfish and committed to the well-being of others. They feel that their fulfillment and pleasure are reliant on the actions and reactions of other people, denying their own physical, mental, and emotional needs in favor of their partners. Problems with intimacy. A codependent person is someone who loses themselves in the company of others. Healthy intimacy is defined as a relationship in which two people may be completely honest with each other and are free to be themselves. Because of their inability to set healthy boundaries, the codependent person is fearful of being criticized, rejected, or abandoned. And as a result, they become closed off, withdrawn, and unable to be themselves. They will confuse sex with intimacy in their relationship. They are also concerned that becoming intimate may cause them to feel overwhelmed, or that they will lose their liberty. They may be concerned about being criticized, rejected, or abandoned because of their shame and poor boundaries. It is possible that they are concerned about being smothered and losing their individuality within a relationship. They lack self-respect and regard for the person with whom they are involved. There is never any sense that their partner is on an equal footing with them. There is always one person in either the up or down position at any given time. However, despite the fact that codependents crave personal connections in order to alleviate their loneliness, they are too preoccupied with taking care of others to pay attention to what is going on inside of themselves, making healthy mutuality and intimacy difficult to achieve. Chapter 4. Know Your Type. When the relationship begins to crumble, the codependent enabler will make sacrifices to meet the emotional demands of the other person in order to keep the connection going. At this point, he or she begins to lose track of who they are. The slogan of a typical enabler is, "I'll do everything to help you," or "I take care of everything in our relationship for you. It is not my fault that we are experiencing difficulties." These imbalanced relationships can last for a long period of time, but they are ultimately unsustainable due to the drain on the enabler's emotional, financial, and physical resources, as well as the resulting resentment and strain on the relationship for both parties. The most common barrier people confront while seeking treatment for codependency is a lack of self-awareness. They simply do not recognize their own contribution to the relationship's problems. On some level, codependents are aware that their relationship is dysfunctional, but they are convinced that the fault is with the other person or that the problem is a result of the current environment. As a result, they are constantly whining about and attempting to remedy the other person's problems. For those who are codependent, the concept of codependency provides a valuable framework for assessing how healthy their interactions are in their relationships with others. The first and most crucial step for codependents is to become aware of their characteristics and behaviors. Once you become aware of their situation, they have the opportunity to make changes. Codependency is a learned behavior, and as such, it has the potential to be unlearned. Codependence, on the other hand, may be the result of underlying difficulties or personality types. The 5 types of codependence. 1. Codependents that are passive. A passive codependent is conflict avoidant, venting underlying fury and bitterness by responding with extreme empathy and excessive compassion. A person with this response feels that they are victims of love's unfairness, disrespects inequity, and neglects neglect. Such sacrificial victims do not escape from their scorching rage simmering underneath the surface. You might find yourself thinking things like, "Making a change for me will result in severe consequences," something you may have learned from their experience with attachment trauma. 2. Actively codependent. A person who is actively codependent attempts to control and manipulate a person in order to get their love, respect, and concern. They delusively assume that their competitiveness and counter-aggression are justified. They utilize an aggressive and confrontational method to protect themselves and accomplish what they require. They rarely have any success with their methods of control and manipulation. If you believe you are this type of codependent, be aware that this behavior can generally lead the pathological narcissist to respond with spiteful behavior, which ultimately can hurt the codependent even more. 3. Cerebral codependent. This label describes a connection of intellectual dependency. In order to overcome certain types of abuse, cerebral codependents gorge themselves on information and descriptions of the experiences of others. They feel that the more knowledge they have, the more they will be able to solve the problem. If you feel your behavior illustrates this type of codependency, you should realize that the separation of knowledge of the codependent relationship will not alleviate the trauma and exhaustion caused by your codependency. 4. Oblivious codependent. Oblivious codependents live in the belief of ignorance is happiness. Their desire not to recognize the inefficacy of their relationship is a defense mechanism to keep them feeling comfortable and safe, keep them comfy. They will not only disregard or reject their obstacles, they often diminish and rationalize them. If you find yourself exhibiting this behavior, realize that willfully detaching from the underlying origins of your troubles or feigning blindness you will perpetuate them with the mistaken idea that what is not seen simply does not exist. 5. Anorexant codependent. Anorexic codependency is a condition that can be brought on by the codependency of a person with a pathological narcissistic personality disorder. A codependent person often goes into codependent anorexia once they have bottomed out and can no longer withstand the pain brought by their partner. As a result, they deny themselves of healthy amounts of emotional and sexual connection, which is a control mechanism. Also, once the non-romantic diet breaks down, their ravenous hunger will return to the mischievous significant other. Sometimes codependency is developed after certain traits of a person become enabled by someone else. The codependent relationship is reciprocal. The enabler and the enabled rely on each other to continue the codependency in their unhealthy relationship. Both members of the relationship are necessary, whether the issue is addiction, bad mental or physical health, and the poor functioning effectively provides each member of the relationship with what they think they need from one another. As a result of their regular support, enablers are able to minimize the external pressures on the enabled person to help the latter mature, improve their life skills, and gain more confidence. Aside from that, the enabled person may have few relationships that are as close as their relationship with the enabler, owing to the latter's below-average performance. As a result, they become heavily reliant on the enabler to meet requirements that would normally be supplied by a number of close relationships. The codependence and resistance to change behavior is due to a high degree of mutual, unhealthy dependency on both the enabler and the enabled's parts. In many cases, even when a relationship is painful or violent, it is extremely difficult for either party member to sever their bond. At the same time, it is not uncommon for one or both partners to feel confined in their relationship. Chapter 5. The Road to Recovery. Recovery does not have a universally accepted definition. To different people, recovery can mean different things. Some define recovery as the goal of being completely free of symptoms. Others may define recovery as being able to manage their illness so that they can lead a meaningful life. Short-term or long-term recovery is both possible. However you define it, the good news is that recovery isn't out of the question. While the process can feel difficult and frightening at times, where you may feel as if you are transitioning into a completely different person, recovery isn't going to change who you are. Instead, it will bring you back. You will be able to manage your codependency well enough that you'll become a person who can function with your best interests in mind. When a person leaves a codependent relationship, codependency does not simply vanish from their life. Recovering from addiction is a process that requires ongoing maintenance, and there is no such thing as full abstinence from social interaction. In therapy, after a number of years, the alterations in thought and behavior become more and more internalized, and the tools and abilities taught become new, healthy habits. When faced with increased stress or when encountering an unhealthy relationship or environment, codependent behavior can easily reemerge, even though it seems unlikely. Because they do not recognize their own role in the relationship's issues, people who suffer from codependency have the most difficulty receiving therapy. Even though codependents are well aware that their relationship with another person is unhealthy, they believe that this is due to themselves as the enabled or to something that has happened. They are constantly whining about and attempting to remedy the other person's problems. In order to assess how healthy you interact with other people, you must first consider the concept of codependency. What characteristics do you recognize in your behavior? Keep in mind that you may exhibit some or all of these behaviors. That will help you understand how and what needs to be changed. With awareness comes the opportunity to grow and become healthy and happy. Know that while it is true that codependency can be learned, it can also be unlearned. Realize that if you have other, deeper issues or personality qualities at play, your codependence may be a result. Starting by learning to set healthy boundaries is an essential component of the recovery process from codependent behavior. In order to establish and maintain personal limits, you must first recognize and respect your own personal boundaries, which is easier said than done if you have a lifelong pattern of failing to do so. In order to function effectively, a person must be aware of their own boundaries. In what areas of your life do you believe your boundaries are being crossed? Behavior may be quite useful as a navigational tool in a variety of situations. For example, if your boundaries are violated, you may experience fury or disappointment. Or you might realize you are inclined to say yes far too frequently may be seen. Or the fact that they are continuously seeking approval from others may be discovered. Knowing one's own behavior is always the first step toward interrupting unhelpful patterns of behavior. Yet, the subsequent step of communicating one's feelings is not only difficult, but it is also vital. People can become closed off or even create walls that act as complete barriers to other people's interactions if they do not communicate their expectations and restrictions clearly. They may also lash out or point the finger at others as a result of their experiences. One of the most challenging components of overcoming codependency is learning how to communicate expectations and boundaries in a clear and loving manner to the person who needs help. Another approach is to deal with the fundamental problem rather than the resulting behavior or symptoms. Learn to build their feeling of self-worth and self-esteem without having to rely on the approval or validation of others in order to achieve this goal. Further suggestions for you to regain your identity and rebuild your self-esteem include, in summary, the following. Learn how to set emotional, physical, and mental boundaries with others, as well as with one's own ideas and behaviors. It is tremendously liberating to be in this type of partnership, and it lays the stage for greater, more meaningful partnerships to follow. It is important to exercise self-care. Do activities that you enjoy because they make you happy and make you feel good about yourself. In order to receive aid, make contact with someone. Realize that being open to receiving assistance, rather than being vulnerable, is a sign of strength rather than weakness. However, it is crucial to realize that while many aspects of codependency can be dealt with on one's own, professional mental health aid is always recommended. They should seek the counsel of a trained psychotherapist and have the financial resources to do so. It is critical to accept and cherish one's own person. Realize that the only relationship that is truly important is the relationship that you have with yourself. If you find yourself altering your behavior in order to receive external approval, you need to acknowledge this behavior and forgive yourself, but also accept and learn to value your true, honest self for who you are, a person deserving of acceptance and love without needing to change or seek the approval of others. The next section will discuss more on how you can learn this crucial skill and behavior. Chapter 6. Building your self-esteem. As discussed, people who suffer from codependency frequently suffer from low self-esteem and often possess and display perfectionist tendencies. Learning to be compassionate toward yourself is often a crucial element of the rehabilitation process. In therapy, a person can learn how to be kind to themselves and forgive themselves for their own errors. It is possible that their desire to overcompensate will diminish over time. If one has a low sense of self-worth, it may take some time to become accustomed to thinking more positively about oneself. One method of accomplishing this is to create a list of numerous characteristics that one appreciates about oneself. A mature citizen devotes some of his free time to his pottery pastime. Caregiving can be draining on an emotional, mental, and physically tiring level. Making time for self-care can be especially crucial for codependent people because they are so generous with their time and resources. Self-care can take on a variety of forms. Exercise and nutritious meals are excellent ways to care for one's body. Spending time with friends or engaging in a recreational activity can help improve mood. Self-care can be defined as any activity that brings happiness to oneself. Failure to maintain a vehicle can result in a breakdown, just as it does with any other vehicle. It is possible to get burnout and compassion fatigue if one does not take care of themselves. These conditions can impair the ability to care for anyone, let alone the people that one knows about the most. The fact remains that it is feasible to care for oneself as well as those in the immediate vicinity. Self-care does not automatically imply a lack of concern for others. In order to improve your self-esteem, you must confront and overcome the negative thoughts that you hold about yourself. This may appear to be an insurmountable undertaking, but there are a variety of approaches that may be used to assist yourself in this endeavor. Work. A person's confidence and self-esteem can be increased by engaging in activities that they find enjoyable and that they are good at. This could be anything from paid labor to volunteering, caring for others, or even recreational activity. Work can provide a sense of belonging, friendship, a predictable schedule, and a source of income. Some people thrive in a fast-paced environment and relish the challenge of meeting lofty goals, while others regard their employment as a means to an end. In certain situations and careers, work can be regarded as a way to give back to the community. Whatever a person performs as a vocation or job, it is critical that they feel secure and encouraged in their career, as well as that the balance between their work and personal lives is appropriate. Hobbies. This could be anything from learning a language to taking singing or painting lessons. Many communities, for example, have formed local biking, hiking, or walking groups to promote healthy lifestyles. Possibly, learning a new language has been something you've been interested in doing for a long period of time. Take a class or join a local organization to learn more about a person's options. It is also possible that local support groups for a specific issue, such as parenting, dealing with a health problem, or caring for a sick loved one, will be able to provide the assistance one requires. Whatever it is, consider situations in which you believe you have a natural skill or interest, or an opportunity to learn or try something new which you've always wanted to do. Try to pick hobbies where you know you can achieve or display something positive, with the ultimate goal of an opportunity to enhance your self-esteem. Bear in mind, if you have a tendency to display perfectionism, your goal is not to be perfect in your new hobby, but to give yourself an opportunity to grow and learn something new. Not be the best at it, especially right away. The internet, your local library, and local colleges will all offer information about groups and classes offering what hobby in which you'd like to learn or participate. Make an effort to cultivate positive relationships. When you join a new group or continue relationships with others, make an effort to associate with people who will not criticize and with whom you feel comfortable discussing your feelings. People who surround themselves with positive and helpful people are more likely to have a favorable self-image and to feel more confident. Avoid people who display negative tendencies, and always be on the lookout for behavior that will inadvertently elicit from you the learned codependent behaviors you are attempting to eliminate and change. Take good care of one's physical health. Taking good care of one's physical health can make one feel happier and healthier, boost one's self-image and confidence. Physical activity is recommended as it has been shown to increase people's sense of well-being and their self-image. Physical activity releases endorphins, which are referred to as feel-good hormones, that can assist enhancing one's mood, particularly if one does it in fresh air. Sleep. Experts agree that sleep is important to your physical and mental health. A lack of sleep can cause negative reactions in body and mind, and even affect your confidence and self-esteem. It is critical to ensure that one gets adequate, restful, and restorative sleep. Consistency is important when it comes to your sleep schedule. Keep the same bedtime on both weekdays and weekends so that your circadian rhythm stays in check, too. Make a bedtime routine, like shower, pajamas, and brush teeth. It's important to set a time when the lights are off. Avoid afternoon naps if it makes it hard to fall asleep at night. And set bedtime rules for your kids and try to get your whole family to go to sleep at the same time every night. Diet. Eating at regular meal times, as well as drinking plenty of water, eating plenty of fruits and vegetables, and avoiding processed, salty, sugar-filled, and fat-drenched foods will enable one to feel healthier and happier in general. To improve one's overall well-being, it is also beneficial to stop or reduce one's alcohol and caffeine consumption, as well as to refrain from using tobacco and recreational drugs. Create a challenge. Setting and achieving goals for yourself will result in feelings of pride and contentment, and also help you feel more positive about yourself. Make certain that the challenge you set for yourself is one that can be accomplished in a reasonable amount of time. It doesn't have to be anything extravagant, but it should have some significance. Some examples include writing a letter to the editor of your local newspaper about an issue or article you feel strongly about, attending a regular exercise class, or even sorting through your clothes closet to eliminate items you no longer wear and donating or throwing them away. Whatever it is you do, remember that the real, underlying goal is to give yourself a feeling of winning by successfully completing a challenge. Learn to recognize and confront negative beliefs. If you wish to enhance one's self-esteem, it may be beneficial to have a better understanding of your negative ideas about yourself and the circumstances that led to those beliefs. Given that this could be a painful process, it's crucial to take your time and even enlist the help of a friend or spouse to assist you. If one is in a state of extreme suffering, it may be best to seek professional assistance from a therapist who can guide them through the process. Practice mindfulness to help relax. Being mindful, or paying attention to the present moment, can be achieved through various practices such as meditation, breathing, and yoga. Mindfulness has been demonstrated to assist people in becoming more conscious of their thoughts and feelings, allowing them to regulate them more effectively rather than becoming overwhelmed by them as a result. Take the time to engage in some inner reflection, whether through journaling or meditation. This will assist you in discovering who you are, as well as what your values and needs are in this life. Tools such as meditation, cognitive behavioral therapy, and self-compassion are good locations to begin your journey toward wellness. Therapy. It is possible for a therapist to assist a person in recognizing codependent tendencies. Some may benefit from therapy because it helps them identify and embrace feelings that were previously denied or repressed. A therapist can also assist them in understanding why codependent habits evolved in their former relationships and how these patterns have migrated to other relationships in the present. A therapist can also assist individuals in improving their interpersonal interactions. They may instruct the individual on how to provide support to others while not supporting negative habits. They may also assist the individual in developing their assertiveness skills. Individuals who are codependent can also benefit from connecting with their peers in group therapy or support group environments. According to Codependence Anonymous, CODA, the 12-step model of recovery developed by Alcoholics Anonymous was the inspiration for the formation of the support group. Al-Anon, a support group for family and friends of those suffering from alcoholism, is equally focused on assisting members in breaking free from their cycles of dependency. Discovering how to say no. Saying no is one of the most difficult things for a codependent person to accomplish. Their habit of prioritizing others may cause them to become oblivious to the fact that their own needs aren't being adequately satisfied. One issue is that the individual may be concerned that a no may end up ruining the relationship. Establishing limits, on the other hand, can be beneficial to a relationship. The likelihood of misunderstandings decreases when people communicate their desires and dissatisfactions in straightforward terms. A no can also assist someone in prioritizing their time and energy on the tasks that are truly important to them. Over time, the codependent individual may experience increased energy and a more positive mood. These modifications have the potential to strengthen the overall relationship. Boundaries might change depending on the individual's needs. A new couple may decide to impose a limit on the number of times they text each other during the course of the day. Two people who are preparing to get married may have a discussion about how they would share their finances. Simple boundaries communicated clearly might assist to build trust and make both parties feel safer. Recognize that a person will never be able to please everyone. Some people are averse to making concessions. To be valid, one's border does not need to be approved by the other party in order to be effective. If a person is unsure about how to say no to a loved one, the following suggestions may be helpful. There should be no space for doubt. Saying no out loud is often more effective than implying that someone doesn't want something. Make yourself available to be repeated. In the case of a loved one who is accustomed to people caving in, it may take a few times of saying no before they realize someone's serious. Don't make up reasons to not do something. Lying about non-existent commitments will almost always result in negative consequences in the long run. Consider the idea of passing the torch. Try to send the individual to someone who will be able to provide them with more appropriate assistance. Supporting as compared to saving. It is possible to provide assistance for the people in your life without feeling as if one has to save them from their circumstances. People need to be encouraged and listened to in order to receive support. Saving is the act of resolving a problem before the individual has a chance to do so themselves. The process of repairing one's own mistakes provides a certain amount of life learning. If someone steps in and fixes everything for someone else, that individual loses the opportunity to learn coping methods and gain self-confidence. They may require those life skills in the future to address a similar challenge. Chapter 7. Healthy and Happy Relationships. Healthy relationships are characterized by honesty, trust, respect, and open communication between people, and they necessitate both partners' efforts and willingness to compromise. There is no unequal distribution of power. Partners recognize and respect each other's independence, are free to make their own judgments without fear of retribution or retaliation, and collaborate on decision-making processes. It is important to realize that there will be ups and downs in every relationship, and they will all require effort, dedication, and a willingness to adapt and change. Although there are steps that can be taken to build a healthy relationship, whether it is just starting out or has been together for years, there are steps that can be taken. No matter how many failed relationships someone has had in the past, or how many times they have tried and failed to rekindle their current relationship, there are ways to stay connected, find fulfillment, and experience lasting happiness. A few tips on growing a happy and healthy relationship. 1. Healthy relationships are characterized by the acceptance of people for who they are rather than what we expect them to become. 2. Communicate with one another. It cannot be overstated that clear communication is essential in maintaining healthy relationships. This means allowing each other some personal time. Genuinely listen to what they are saying, and don't try to insert what you think they should be saying, how they should say it, or what you think they might be saying. Make an effort to comprehend their point of view. Ask questions about what's being said. Demonstrate interest. Inquire about the other person's past, present, and future experiences, feelings, opinions, and interests. Above all, share information. According to research, sharing information can aid in the formation of new relationships. Allow people to know who you are, not who you think they might want you to be or be like. 3. Accept accountability for your actions. Be willing to change outlooks. It is normal to be apprehensive about major life changes. Relationships that are healthy allow for change and growth. 4. Don't forget to look after yourself. Healthy relationships are mutually beneficial and allow for the needs of both parties to be met. 5. Demonstrate dependability. If someone agrees to something with another, follow-through is important. If you accept responsibility for something or someone, you must see it through to completion. Healthy relationships are based on mutual trust. 6. Fight on an even playing field. Most relationships are characterized by some level of conflict. It simply indicates that one and one's partner are at odds over a particular issue. It does not necessarily imply that they dislike each other or that the relationship is about to end. Recognize that some problems are difficult to resolve. Allow time to cool down before speaking. It is best to avoid using the words always and never, and to deal with one issue at a time. The values, beliefs, habits, and personalities of individuals may not always be in sync with another's. Communicating effectively can go a long way toward helping better understand one another and address concerns. But some issues are deeply ingrained and may not be easily changed over time. It is critical to determine for yourself what you will accept, as well as to decide when a relationship is no longer healthy for you. 7. Have a positive attitude. Studies show that happy couples have a ratio of about 5 positive interactions or feelings for every 1 negative interaction or feeling. Warmth and affection should be expressed. 8. Maintain a sense of balance in one's life. Other people contribute to the satisfaction of our lives, but you need to understand they are unable to meet all of your needs. Find something that interests you and get involved. A healthy relationship allows for time for extracurricular activities and me time. 9. Relationships are a methodical procedure. Although it appears that everyone on Earth is confident and connected, the majority of people have concerns about fitting in and getting along with their peers. It takes time to meet new people and get to know them on a personal level. Healthy relationships can be learned and practiced, and they can continue to improve over time. 10. Be authentic. When compared to pretending to be something or someone else, it is much easier and more enjoyable to be authentic. Authenticity is the cornerstone of healthy relationships. 11. Ensure that one and one's partner commit to spending regular quality time together. Put away your electronic devices. Stop thinking about the outside world and its pressures, and spend a few minutes each day truly focusing on and connecting with your partner, no matter how busy you are. 12. Do something you both enjoy doing together, whether it is a shared hobby, a daily walk, or simply sitting and talking over a cup of coffee or tea, or at a shared meal in the morning or at the end of the day. 13. Participating in new activities with a group can be a fun way to build relationships and keep things interesting. Simply going out to a new restaurant or going on a day trip to somewhere you've never been before can be extremely rewarding. 14. Keep the focus on having fun. In the early stages of a relationship, couples are frequently more amorous and playful with one another. But when life challenges get in the way, or old resentments resurface, it's easy to lose sight of the importance of a playful attitude. But maintaining a sense of humor can assist you in getting through difficult times, reducing stress, and resolving issues more quickly. Other ways to have fun are to consider creative ways to surprise someone, such as bringing flowers to their home or booking a table at their favorite restaurant without their knowledge. Find fun things to do together, like playing with a pet, your children, or grandchildren. Above all, engage in life and include one another. Final words. The condition of codependency is difficult to eliminate if it's not recognized. But once it is, you can recover and discover a better life and happy, healthy relationships. The process of achieving the proper balance between being independent and being codependent takes time and requires patience to achieve success. Remember to make a note of the steps outlined above in order to overcome codependency, but don't expect to see immediate results from a person's efforts. When codependents worry about things and people over which they have no control, it is all too common for them to waste far too much of their efforts without seeing many, if any, positive results. Gaining a better understanding of yourself, honoring yourself, and expressing yourself freely are all essential components of the codependent recovery process. Know that to be happy, you must stop deferring to others or accepting their expectation that you will make them happy at the expense of your own desires, best interests, or emotional fulfillment. Instead, you must begin doing things that will make you happy and expect that others accept the responsibility for their own happiness. Realize that it is difficult, if not impossible, to spend much time worrying about the emotions and behaviors of someone else while going through the process of developing a relationship with oneself. Recognize that none of us are responsible for any emotions but our own, and that the only behaviors you can truly affect are those you, yourself, perform. Even though loving yourself may seem self-indulgent, when you do, you have love to give to others that is both therapeutic and uplifting, for anyone with whom you come into contact. To establish feeling healthy, balanced, and loved, you must take things one step at a time and acknowledge and celebrate all of the small victories along the way. Realize that love and power are not incompatible with one another. Loving someone does not imply that you must give up your own identity, and in fact, doing so can lead to feelings of resentment later. Instead, live consciously. Accept responsibility for yourself and your choices. Build your self-esteem by communicating your needs and desires. Reclaim your power over yourself. Develop a sense of safety and mutual respect with others and allow them to express themselves honestly, set boundaries, and say no. Healing from codependency entails not only recognizing what you require, but also asserting what you desire or require. Humans are not capable of continuing to act and feel like victims or martyrs on an ongoing basis. The ability to communicate assertively, stand up for yourself, set boundaries in order to protect yourself from being mistreated, and cultivate relationships in which people give and receive equally are all important skills for us to learn. Recognizing and accepting your own identity is a critical component of recovering from codependency. In many cases, codependents spend so much time thinking about and attempting to care for or appease someone else that they lose sight of their own requirements. Because of this, people must take the time to intentionally discover who they are, what they like, what is important to them, what their aspirations and goals are, and so on. People who are recovering from codependency must remember to be gentle with themselves as they go about their recovery. In general, codependents are harsh on themselves, are highly critical of themselves, and are highly critical of themselves. This is unjustified and counterproductive in the long run. As a substitute, you should treat yourself with kindness, acceptance, and support, just as you would treat a dear friend who happens to cross your path. Recognize that your attention is diverted away from solving your own problems when you are attempting to change, advise, or command the attitudes of others. This is even more true when there is an addiction involved. But if you stop trying to solve someone else's problems, you're not giving up on them. Instead, consider that you're allowing that other person the opportunity to take care of themselves. Be patient with your attempts to change your own codependent behavior. Recognizing the condition is like a tree with many roots. You need to trim one root at a time. Focus on one behavior each day. Enlisting the assistance of a therapist or qualified person will make the process more manageable and successful. Recovery is a journey that can be filled with highs and lows on a daily basis. Making a point to check in with yourself gives you the opportunity to assess where you are in the recovery process. You might realize you need to experiment with different coping mechanisms. It will be easier to realize that you're not to blame for your difficulties if you learn as much as possible about your mental and emotional condition. If you find yourself feeling down, it is beneficial to create and keep a list of your accomplishments for inspiration, especially if you've created small challenges for yourself as suggested and were able to achieve success. If you created and kept a journal as suggested in Chapter 5, you can refer to it when you feel lost and rediscover or refine your thoughts and plans. Another effective method of reconnecting with oneself is to act as an advocate for oneself and share one's story with others. To determine the effectiveness of storytelling as a therapeutic technique, numerous studies have been conducted over the past decade. Shared experiences, whether in writing or verbally, are an important part of the recovery process for those who are struggling. Having a strong sense of belonging to a large community is a great way to feel emotionally strong and resilient when going through difficult circumstances. Take, for example, the activities that one enjoys participating in. In order to broaden one's social circle, one should consider becoming a member of a community organization that brings people together who share similar interests to their own. A person possesses the ability to break free from codependency. While recovery is a process, thinking about all of the changes that one wishes to make can be overwhelming. The good news is that recovery does not have to be all or nothing in order to be effective. It doesn't matter if you only make a few minor adjustments. You will reap the benefits of this positive change. People who approach recovery from codependency with patience and consistency will gradually gain confidence once they can recognize and acknowledge their successes. With consistent practice, support, and the acquisition of new skills, you can walk confidently on the road to recovery. Above all, it is necessary to rebalance your life in order to recover from codependency. Rather than focusing solely on what others require, you must consider your own requirements and place them first on your priority list. While this does not mean that you should never consider or care for the needs of others, it does mean that you must consider your needs as just as important as anyone else's. In fact, if you do not take care of yourself, you may become depleted, resentful, and unfulfilled, and not be able to care for anyone as a result. In this way, understand that taking care of yourself by staying healthy and strong will make your ability to take care of others even better. If you enjoyed this audiobook and you've learned about how to fight codependency, an honest review is always appreciated and will help me reach new listeners just like you who struggle with codependency. Good luck on your journey. Eva Spencer. Introduction. A narcissist is a person who is conceited or obsessed with themselves, and who may manipulate others in order to achieve a sense of self-worth. They may enjoy exerting control over people in their lives. Individuals who meet the criteria for narcissistic personality disorder can be extremely manipulative in intimate relationships because of their deceitfulness, lack of empathy, and proclivity to be interpersonally exploitative. Despite the fact that this book focuses mostly on narcissistic abusers and what their victims can do to recover from abuse, it may also be of interest to those who suffer from related disorders or who have experienced other forms of domestic abuse. It is necessary for people who have experienced narcissistic abuse in a relationship to identify people who display malignant narcissism so that they can more effectively protect themselves from exploitation and abuse, create appropriate boundaries with others, and make educated judgments about who they choose to have in their life. Those who have not experienced abuse can, of course, also benefit from understanding narcissism so that they, too, can have successful, happy relationships. Having a clear understanding of the nature of toxic encounters and how they affect people considerably improves people's ability to exercise self-care. Narcissism can manifest itself in a relationship in subtle and complicated ways. As a result of listening to this book, listeners will understand how to spot the warning signs of narcissistic abuse and how narcissism shows itself in relationships. This book educates listeners on how to begin healing and recovering from narcissistic abuse. If a victim of abuse has not already begun to separate from their narcissistic partner, this book will provide healing ideas and guidance. Listeners will also learn about the causes of their addiction to their narcissistic partner, as well as the most effective ways to turn their experiences into healing. Chapter 1. Spot the Narcissist. What is narcissistic abuse? Narcissistic abuse is a type of emotional abuse that occurs in a relationship between a narcissistic person and their victim or victims, whether a romantic partner, family members, friends, or coworkers. It is possible to undergo considerable levels of abuse while being in a relationship with a narcissist. This is especially true of emotional abuse. While they may not be aware of it, narcissistic people have a tendency to use words and language to demean, invalidate, or manipulate their partners, as well as to exert control over their conduct. As a result, the victim may feel inadequate or like a failure in the relationship. Being a victim of narcissistic abuse can result in symptoms that are comparable to those of post-traumatic stress disorder, such as emotional triggers, flashbacks, isolation, detachment, avoidance, and hypervigilance, among other symptoms. Narcissistic abuse syndrome is caused by prolonged or severe exposure to a pathologically narcissistic individual. The individual who has been harmed feels suffocated in the relationship, especially if the other person is emotionally abusive and manipulative. The victim's emotional well-being is frequently sacrificed for the benefit of the narcissistic person's emotional well-being. The individual who has been affected may feel useless and be perplexed, and they may even blame themselves for the demise of the relationship. The result of exerting excessive effort to obtain the narcissist's approval over a period of time is a loss of one's own personal identity. Individuals who have been affected frequently experience a significant loss of self-esteem or self-worth, and they may find it difficult to trust others and to make decisions. They will frequently separate themselves from others out of a fear that others will not understand or even believe what they are going through. Who are the usual suspects? Research into the psychology of narcissism has revealed that this sort of identity is typically motivated by a deep-seated sense of shame, in many cases. In other circumstances, it could be that a narcissistic person is attempting to distance themselves from a traumatic portion of their past that makes them feel helpless or unimportant. It has been shown that early trauma is strongly associated with the development of narcissistic personality disorder, NPD. A parent may have either taught the child to care for the needs of others or ignored them, setting a precedent for others to do the same. People who were abused and demeaned as children may adopt narcissistic behaviors in their adult relationships as a result of their childhood experiences. People who have the power and financial means to self-isolate are more likely to be identified as narcissists, according to one school of thought. Self-isolation is defined as the ability to exert sufficient control over one's environment to avoid contact with those who provide them with negative or critical feedback. Other signs of narcissism include an urge to be the center of attention and to neglect the sentiments of others, feigning victimization, or pathological codependency. However, it should be noted that narcissism is a tough trait to discern in others. Psychologists examine a wide range of indicators and symptoms that, on their own, could be completely normal. This is because of the lack of medical tests that can detect it. Therapists look for signs of narcissistic personality disorder, such as excessive grandiosity, perfectionism, or self-loathing, to determine whether or not a patient has the illness. Narcissistic tendencies are more prevalent in those who are well-off or well-known, as opposed to the general populace. People who are better off than the majority of the population are included in this category. An excellently compensated workforce is on hand to look after them at all times. Everybody's attention is quickly drawn to them as soon as they walk into a room or enter a building. The general impression is that everyone is constantly attempting to impress these individuals, even themselves. People who have a lot of money and power are prone to becoming self-absorbed or self-serving, which is not uncommon. With riches, a person may exert influence over their surroundings, and this power frequently spills over into their interpersonal interactions. Their environment exacerbates narcissistic characteristics, if they already have them. One may experience an overwhelming sensation of loneliness while dealing with narcissistic individuals who are extremely affluent. It is possible for a wealthy wife to feel separated from her husband due to his narcissistic behavior. Although they may be well-liked in public, their significant other may be suffering from a narcissistic personality. It is possible that you, like many other victims of narcissistic abuse, are not aware that the way your partner treats you constitutes abusive behavior. To come to terms with the idea that you have been mistreated and then open up about it can be a challenging process. Exclusive, private treatment institutions or cognitive therapy can provide a safe space for you to express your most intimate thoughts and feelings in complete confidentiality. Understanding what is going on, determining why someone you care about is acting badly, and determining what you can do to alter your situation are all things that an experienced team of professionals can assist you in doing. How does narcissistic abuse manifest? Narcissistic abuse syndrome affects people who have lived with or spent a significant amount of time with narcissistic individuals over a prolonged period of time. People who have been subjected to narcissistic abuse usually express concerns about their self-worth and mental well-being, which can lead to depression in some cases. Regardless of whether or not these fears are rooted in reality, their flaws, limitations, and other shortcomings frequently cause people a great deal of distress. The majority of the time, their narcissistic partner has placed these notions in their minds. Individuals suffering from narcissistic abuse syndrome typically find it difficult to develop meaningful relationships with other people around them. Following years of abuse and emotional manipulation, it is likely that they will come to distrust everything they have come to think about themselves and the universe. The checklist. A person who is suffering from narcissistic abuse syndrome may display a wide range of signs and symptoms. Post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, is a psychological disorder that affects people who have witnessed or experienced a distressing event. In many cases, the symptoms of narcissistic abuse syndrome are comparable to those reported by people who are suffering from PTSD. The following are the physical and emotional responses to experiences that are similar to or reminiscent of traumatic situations, which are seen as intrusive, invasive, or otherwise unwelcome triggers. Suffering from flashbacks, which are the experiences of being taken back in time and reliving some of the most unpleasant memories from the past. Complete avoidance of any interaction with anyone or anything related to the narcissist. Having feelings of loneliness or a sense of being shut off from other people and feeling isolated. And the feeling of being on high alert or on guard all of the time. The narcissist's predilection for destroying and harming other people's lives, which they may find gratifying, may be the catalyst for any or all of these symptoms to manifest. Warning signs. These are some of the ways that narcissistic people might try to gain power over their victims. To get what they want, the abuser may have to do different things in different ways. The difference between narcissists and sociopaths is that narcissists enjoy getting what they want. Some people might not like the conditions they make, and they might not even know that their actions are bad. After they reach their short-term goal, they may stop behaving badly, only to start again when a new goal is at risk. Controlling behavior. People who reflect the characteristics of narcissistic personality disorder are more likely to engage in controlling conduct. For a while, it may appear that they only want to be in control of their partner's time and attention, but they will gradually demand more. They may demand that their preferences be followed, and they may even attempt to persuade their significant other to participate entirely in activities that are appealing to or beneficial to the narcissist. While some controlling actions are subtle, they are always persistent. Expect a narcissistic person to lie, cheat, or hide information to get their way on a regular basis. Control is synonymous with power in the eyes of narcissistic individuals. Focusing on themselves. Intensely self-absorbed and conceited, narcissistic abusers put their victims' well-being at risk with their actions. It is their goal to coerce others into paying them an excessive amount of attention by engaging in a variety of acts that range from humorous to aggressive. The presence of violent demonstrations has the potential to cause distress to onlookers. They are capable of being frightening. A narcissistic individual who is motivated by personal gain will attempt to control everybody and everything in their path to success. In response, their victim is continuously aware of their emotions and may expend a significant amount of energy attempting to predict the narcissist's wants, which are known to fluctuate dramatically. Love bombing. When meeting a narcissist for the first time, they may appear to be overly pleasant, excitable, or extremely nice. They may overshare interesting or emotionally compelling aspects of their personal history or personality in an attempt to be liked, and whether or not these are true or false stories, they will be believable. This practice, called love bombing, initially attracts people to the narcissist and gives them a confidence boost. Though this is a way to endear the victim to the narcissist so that they start a relationship off on a positive note before turning to other methods of control. Gaslighting. Gaslighting is a type of psychological manipulation that is intended to confuse its targets. A person who adopts this strategy forces them to question their perception of reality. They may claim to have forgotten an incident in which they were involved, or to have mistrust in the memory of others to gain an advantage over their victims. The fundamental goal of this approach is to maintain their position of dominance over others. Narcissists can maintain their version of reality at the forefront of people's minds by making them doubt their judgment or recall. After gaining control of the narrative, they believe they will be able to influence the outcome in their favor. Isolation. A common tactic used by narcissistic abusers is to isolate their victims, which is typically a prelude to more serious physical and psychological abuse. Initially, the narcissist may remove the individual from their support network of friends and family members to establish themselves as the primary source of affection and validation for that individual. If a person's loved ones, or ones who are most familiar with them, are kept away from them, it may provide an abuser more opportunities to gain control over the individual. In order to prevent their victim from spending time with loved ones and friends, the narcissist will make repeated attempts to prevent them from spending time with those who inquire about how much the victim has changed since being with the narcissistic abuser, or who express disgust for this connection. Narcissists may attempt to erode trust by lying or making disparaging remarks about their spouse's family members, or they may fabricate disagreements or circumstances to prevent their partner from making or keeping plans with other people, among other tactics. Victims have reported feeling befuddled by societal standards as a result of their lengthy seclusion. The victims of controlling methods may not understand how to interact with people in an acceptable manner as a result of their repeated employment of such tactics. Narcissists may avoid social situations where they believe they will be confronted by people who are a threat to their well-being, such as relatives or coworkers. The victim may feel alone and abandoned as a result of the abuser's social isolation. Mistrust. Social isolation and suspicion of others may naturally progress to the victim mistrusting their own skills. Narcissists lie or manipulate delicate situations to preserve their status as the most trusted source of information and support for their victims. As a result, victims usually rely on their abusers to corroborate the truth or judge when the situation is safe. Narcissists may deliberately instill doubt in the victim's mind about formerly trusted loved ones, as well as authority figures or professional experts, whose advice is in direct contradiction to the narcissist's own opinions or thinking on a particular subject. Disrespect of privacy and boundaries. People who have been subjected to narcissistic abuse describe being unable to make decisions for themselves, particularly when it comes to physical separation. Codependency and physical intimacy are two strategies of control. As well as being physically confined, many victims have reported that they have been subjected to technological restrictions such as GPS trackers, social media filters, and the theft of passcodes. A narcissist will go to extraordinary lengths to ensure they are always one step ahead of their victims. They may access their private emails and journals. When it comes to one's well-being, digital privacy breaches can be just as detrimental as physical seclusion. To test their victims' dedication, abusers frequently create a fictitious internet presence for them. People may even threaten to post personal images or secrets on social media websites if they are not stopped. Invasion of the victim's digital privacy is one of the many tactics used to control their victim's conduct. Verbal abuse. Narcissists resort to employing insults and put-downs to prevent their victims from ever trusting their judgments again. Even when the consequences are minor, verbal abuse is frequently used to humiliate or degrade the other person. Even little verbal snipes can evolve into full-blown emotional abuse in the most severe of situations. Name-calling, blaming, and judging can lead to threats, rants, and silent treatment. Even though verbal abuse does not include physical contact, these talks can still be hostile. Bullying and harassment are made more acceptable by narcissist superiority complex. Violent threats. Even though narcissistic abuse is primarily characterized by emotional manipulation, abusers may smash objects, injure others, or threaten to do so, or commit self-harm as a means of punishing or generating terror. You should keep in mind, however, that narcissists are constantly seeking attention. Once they realize that their deception is no longer working, they may become more aggressive and coercive. The two factors that can lead to a violent outburst are arrogance and an inability to self-regulate one's behavior. Emotional blackmail. When narcissistic abusers utilize hoovering, which is a form of emotional blackmail, they often target their victims. As the name implies, this method is named after the vacuum manufacturer and is used to repeatedly draw victims back into abusive situations. An abuser who thinks they are losing control may go through a series of efforts to fix things. The abuser may ultimately validate the victim's sentiments or lift social boundaries and restrictions on interactions as a result of this process. Refractory periods, on the other hand, are usually short-lived. This cycle of social isolation and control begins as soon as an abuser develops trust that their victim will not fight back. Instilling fear. To obtain what they desire, narcissistic abusers take pleasure in creating dread and anxiety in others. It is commonplace for victims of domestic violence to feel scared of their abusers, not only physically but also psychologically, as well as being violently threatened by them. People who have been subjected to abuse might develop hesitancy to deviate from the norm that the abuser set. As an alternative, the victim could transform into the abuser's gopher, constantly on the lookout for methods to meet the abuser's wants before an outburst occurs. In an attempt to minimize or avoid their partner's adverse emotions, the victim may engage in menial and demeaning activities, which may be the most evident manifestation of abuse. People-pleasing. When it comes to their past, those who have narcissistic tendencies may experience feelings of shame or remorse. The seeds of self-doubt can germinate even after they have been sown, but have been forgotten. As a result, adult abusers often go out of their way to impress or purposely over-accommodate those who they believe will help them advance in society. Abusers frequently volunteer for tasks or environments that are tough or counterproductive to impressing others around them. Walking on eggshells. Many people who experience narcissistic abuse characterize the feeling as walking on eggshells. As a result of their abuser's actions, some victims of narcissistic abuse may have hypervigilance or racing thoughts. Some people may find themselves continually rehearsing incidents in their minds as a result of their abusive relationship in order to anticipate how their partner may behave. Victims may decide they need to consult with their abuser before taking action for the sake of not infringing on their rights in any way. They may think that keeping their distance and avoiding being involved in situations is the greatest thing they can do. As a result of these assertions, the abuser wields an excessive amount of power over their victims. Making excuses. Because they are particularly vulnerable to criticism, narcissists usually instruct their victims to act as blocking agents to escape criticism. Consequently, when confronted with criticism, a victim may attempt to intercede before the narcissist may react negatively. The abuser may be able to subtly correct the issue while taking the credit, and they will attempt to rationalize their behavior. The abuser may claim that the victim or others mistreat them. They may have victims convinced that they should keep their tongues in check, or that their abuser behaves the way that they do because they are stressed or have been dealing with so much. Victims may say to others in the presence of their abuser that they believe their partner is a wonderful person, but it is usually a ruse to keep themselves safe from their partner. While publicly portraying themselves as resilient in the face of devastating news, narcissists may secretly unload their frustrations and insecurities on the victim to keep their public image intact. Abuse in previous relationships. Physical, mental, and emotional abuse are typical experiences for both victims and perpetrators. Abuse can manifest itself in a variety of ways. A shared empathy for one another's suffering may have been one of the early factors that brought the couple together. As they say, old habits die hard, and it is likely that in the future, both parties may find themselves in situations that are similar to those they have previously experienced. If a person has been mistreated in one relationship, they will probably respond by mistreating another. Children of abused parents are more vulnerable to the impacts of their parents' emotional turmoil than are other children or adolescents. Almost everyone willing to engage in abusive behavior, such as lying or manipulating others, has been a victim of abuse at some point in their lives. Chapter 2. Relationships with a Narcissist. Being in a relationship with a narcissist is similar to being on a roller coaster at a theme park. It is common for fantasy dating relationships to begin before devolving into a nightmare marriage. The likelihood of becoming involved in a narcissistic relationship is higher for people who have undergone trauma or emotional abuse than for the general population. Narcissists use their skills to manipulate their victims to keep them in their relationships, despite the difficulties they are experiencing as a result of physical and mental abuse and trauma. In a new relationship, This type of deceptive behavior is usually misread by the other person, especially during the honeymoon stage. Narcissists are well known for deliberately destroying their partner's self-esteem and self-confidence through persistent criticism and gaslighting, which ultimately results in unrelenting and catastrophic emotional abuse on their partner's side. Manipulation tactics. It is critical to acknowledge that a narcissist does not act out of a failure to understand the suffering they are causing their partner to feel. This includes people who are incapable of feeling empathy for others and who, instead, have a strong sense of superiority over those in their immediate environment. They can manage because they make use of strategic approaches. When something unpleasant occurs in their lives, narcissists are unable to accept responsibility for it. Instead, they blame their partner for everything that goes wrong and takes credit for everything that goes right in their relationship. Starting small. During the early stages of a relationship, it is common for narcissists to speak unfavorable comments in an offhand manner. Even though these remarks appear inconsequential, they lay the framework for future acceptance of higher levels of negativity. Keep an eye out for continuous comments like, "You don't truly mean that. You can't possibly be serious about. It is not your fault that you are unable to comprehend. You are quite sensitive about." Kidding. Just joking is not an unusual thing for a narcissist to say, especially if it is something they believe is humorous when it is upsetting. This is not an accident. It is a deliberate method used by narcissists to harm and traumatize. They don't apologize. Instead, they try to pass the continuous barrage of nasty words off as a joke or as their victim's excessive levels of sensitivity. Your problem, not mine. One of the most typical strategies narcissists use to wound and harm is to transfer their difficulties onto their partner. This typically occurs with statements such as, "You're only concerned about yourself. You don't care about me. You have to be in charge of every detail. You are paranoid. You are mistaken. You don't appreciate this relationship. You have that wrong. You aren't recalling that accurately." Gaslighting, which is the practice of repeatedly sending misleading signals to a partner in order to make them doubt their memory and reasoning, is a common form of abuse and manipulation. This is a type of psychological and emotional abuse in which the abuser manipulates circumstances over and over again to deceive the victim into questioning their memory, perception, and sanity, among other things. Gaslighting is a type of mind control that makes victims fearful of relying on their own experience and memory of a particular scenario. Narcissists can also deceive by withholding crucial information and then acting as if they had forgotten about it. Twisting the story. People with narcissistic traits are known to engage in harmful social behaviors. They may respond in a revolting yet predictable way whenever there's a fight or a disagreement. Because it contradicts their belief about what is true, truth is difficult for narcissists to accept. Self-deluding mechanisms include convincing themselves that what appears to be real isn't really real, and that whatever they feel to be true is really true. Even if an individual is aware that a story is fake, the more time they spend listening to it, the more probable it is that they will believe what they are told. Therefore, folks may gradually come to believe a lie without reservation. It should be noted that narcissists frequently perform lying and denial in front of others. Ordinary people deal with their difficulties on a personal level, and they do so on their own initiative. People may prefer to discuss their struggles in a more private setting, such as therapy or with close, healthy family members, as an alternative. Narcissists may not have someone like that in their lives, and they aren't particularly interested in resolving issues or participating in self-reflection either. It is completely natural for narcissists to want to know that they are correct. They rely on the false reinforcement of others to keep their weak self-esteem under control. They identify people who are on their side and who will agree with them so they can use them as resources. Projection. A narcissist's preferred method of constructing a new narrative is the projection technique, which occurs when a narcissist claims that the other people possess negative traits, when it is in fact the narcissist who possesses those traits. Narcissists take pleasure in projecting their own image onto other people or objects. The narcissist may assert that someone is jealous of them, and the victims may believe them completely. The narcissist may claim that a person was harsh to them, and the victims may realize that the narcissist has been nasty to the other person. It's safe to assume that as soon as they claim that another person lied and cheated, they were the ones who lied and cheated themselves. Of course, it may be possible for both the narcissist and the person onto which they are projecting to exhibit unhealthy conduct. It is for this reason that the narcissist attempts to place the blame for the other person's destructive acts on them in order to deflect attention away from themselves and their own behaviors. In this situation, the narcissist may feel that they are superior. Framing the story. Narcissists also like to cut a story short and only share the part of an incident where the injured party reacted to their toxic behavior, framing the story as if that was the beginning. Alternatively, they may distort the truth by employing euphemisms and deceptive words. "I'm not controlling. I just want what's best for you." If a victim of a narcissist bullying is defiant, the narcissist may portray the situation as though they were the one who was the victim of bullying. In their narrative, they were simply going about their business or joking around when their victim started lashing out or getting defensive. The narcissist may simply leave out what happened before the victim stood up for themselves, to frame the situation as the victim being mean to them, even though the victim's defensiveness was a normal reaction to the narcissist's toxic behavior. They may characterize their self-defense as a form of filthy violence toward them by omitting or downplaying their aggressive behavior. Narcissists may also perform slander, triangulation, character assassination, and other types of defamation. While there are many ways in which a narcissist might use their falsehoods and projections, the ultimate goal is always to turn others against the victim, in the hopes that others will not try to figure out the truth for themselves. Triangulation is one method of accomplishing this. Triangulation is the process of controlling and manipulating communication between two people. In this case, the narcissist spreads false information about others in a manner similar to gossiping, smearing, and slandering. Character assassination is a more extreme version of all of this, in which the lies are considerably more serious and harmful. Narcissists refuse to entertain the possibility that they may not be perfect in every way. When confronted with the possibility that they may have done something wrong, they become extremely vulnerable, especially if others can see them. Consequently, whenever there is a conflict, they will go to tremendous lengths to retain the illusion of being pleasant, while presuming that the other party is wicked. In addition, they require confirmation from others that their fantasy is correct. In order to convince others that they are correct, these individuals spread defamatory and false stories that portray the narcissist's fantasies as if they were factual. The general disinterest or inability of their audience to delve deeper into the subject matter at hand may provide an opportunity for a narcissist to achieve their desired affirmation and perhaps live out their payback fantasies. Because it makes them feel bad about themselves, narcissists may loathe watching others triumph and may attempt to undercut another person's success. Victims may incur significant social, economic, emotional, and even physical consequences as a result of this, depending on the situation. In the narcissist narrative, the victim has earned their fall from grace since they have been wicked, and therefore, the narcissist may assert that the victim deserved whatever negative consequences they received, even the most significant, because of some projected character fault or perceived harmful way they treated the narcissist. Chapter 3. Breaking Up Bonds. A narcissist's harsh criticism, lack of empathy, deep insecurities, and need for constant praise may make it difficult to continue a relationship with them. There are a few things better for a victim's emotional well-being than ending a relationship with someone who refuses to address their narcissistic traits. Even though ending a relationship with a narcissist might be difficult, being prepared, recognizing their typical emotions of rage and blame, and seeking competent treatment make it possible. Leaving a relationship with a narcissist is extremely tough for the victim of a narcissist. Narcissists are reliant on the availability of individuals to exploit on an emotional, financial, and psychological level for as long as they can get their hands on them. In order to fulfill their ambitions, they must resort to abuse and exploitation. They must also demonstrate to themselves on a consistent basis that they are stronger, more resilient, and wiser than the rest of the population. In an abusive relationship, the victim may be exhausted as a result of the frequent bickering, love bombing, and gaslighting, making it harder to walk out of the relationship. Setting boundaries and reminding themselves of the reasons for leaving a difficult circumstance will assist them in navigating the situation successfully. When the victim decides to discuss their potential leaving with the narcissist may claim they can be persuaded to engage in a discussion about the bounds of acceptable behavior. Narcissists almost always respond in one of two ways. Either they say nothing, or they say anything. Those who aren't ready to let go will usually cry and express their regret for what they've done to the person they're talking to. They may make a promise to change, but that promise is always broken. With each passing day, the goalposts shift, and the victim is forced to skate on thin ice as their grasp on reality becomes increasingly tenuous. When the narcissist appears to be changing, it is usually one step forward, followed by 2 steps back. In this way, even if they are causing someone else pain, they may blame the victim for being the ones who called them out. When the victim finally leaves, the narcissist will refuse to be held accountable for anything they've done or said in the past. They will blame their victim for the troubles in the relationship. It is necessary for the victim to let go of the goal of making the narcissist understand themselves in order to terminate the relationship successfully. Those who have experienced a breakup may attempt to coax their victim back into their lives so that they avoid removing them from the picture altogether. Narcissists have trouble letting go of individuals who were successful victims of theirs in the past, because they know they may be capable of manipulating them again in the future. Because everything must be done in accordance with their rules, the victim can never know if the perpetrator will become even more violent with them, and it is best to resist returning to the relationship and to cut all ties with the narcissist. A victim of a narcissist must be aware of the following information so that they can escape from the potentially dangerous situation and leave the abusive narcissist behind. Why do people stay for as long as they do? Among the many aspects of abusive relationships that are not usually visible from the outside, trauma bonding is one that stands out. The outcome, on the other hand, is the product of a controlling partner's constant manipulation. Individuals who have developed a trauma attachment are more likely to continue to be in a coercive relationship than other individuals. A trauma bond is comparable to the Stockholm Syndrome in that it is formed via trauma. If the narcissist abuses the victim on a consistent basis, a toxic relationship may develop between them in order for both parties to gain the affirmation and affection they require. Trauma bonding can occur in a variety of settings other than intimate love connections, including workplaces, non-romantic relatives, and even amongst friends and strangers. If the narcissist wants to achieve this goal, he or she must persuade their victim that the damaging actions that they are engaging in are merely natural aspects of their personality. As the relationship between the abuser and the victim develops stronger, the victim's need for validation increases, giving the abuser additional leverage and the capacity to exert greater control over the victim. After months or even years of being in a toxic relationship, it is possible that the victim will not even be aware that they are involved in one anymore. To prevent trauma bonding from occurring, it really is critical to understand what causes it and how to recognize the indicators. Breaking this bond. A trauma bond is usually difficult to break free from without the aid of a trained specialist. Some strategies to assist the victim in escaping from this poisonous connection are as follows. Attempt to keep a physical distance between yourself and the abuser. Though this may be unpleasant, it is always preferable to the alternative, which is emotional solitude. Disconnect all lines of communication as much as you are able. This can be difficult to accomplish if you have common connections with the abuser, such as children, mutual friends, or coworkers. However, communication about childcare, for instance, could be restricted to email or a third party. Accept the fact that you are in command of the situation and that you have the option to end the relationship at any point. Choosing to accept this option allows you to regain control of your life, putting yourself in a less vulnerable position to future abuse. Create a support system that consists of a group of trusted experts, friends, and family members who can assist you in your recovery from the trauma bonding. It is critical to concentrate on developing good relationships with others while recovering from domestic violence. Make decisions purely for your own self-interest and for no other purpose. Be gentle with your physical and mental well-being, and refrain from punishing yourself when you make a mistake. A long and winding road leads to healing and to life. Maintain your focus on the present moment and pay close attention to your feelings. No matter how long you've been with the individual, pay close attention to how stuck, fearful, and undesirable you still feel in your relationship with that person. Recognize that your sense of self-worth has been eroded as a result of being in this relationship. Make the most of what you have right now, rather than wishing for greater things in the future. Develop a list of the things you will not tolerate while in a relationship, such as, I will not be intimate with someone who calls me names. I will not be questioned every time I go out, and I will wear whatever I want. Get started thinking about your future without an abusive partner right away by making a plan. Identify and commit to actions that are positive and life-affirming for you and your well-being. Take time to learn about yourself without the opinions or projected beliefs of the narcissist. They may have convinced you that you possess traits that you do not. Relearn your own personality and find things that you like about yourself. To better understand what happened and to make themselves less prone to abusive relationships in the future, the victim should learn about the personality traits of narcissistic abusers and use what they have learned. It is important for them to reflect on how their own character limits or wants may have contributed to their engagement in the detrimental codependency after they have left the abusive relationship and regained their self-confidence. It is possible that they were drawn into an abusive relationship by a vision or a concept of a more hopeful future. Because the narcissist persuaded them that they would be able to satisfy an unmet, long-held need of the victim, it is possible that the victim decided to participate. They may have expected that the narcissist would fill a void in their personality that they saw to be present at the time of the beginning of the relationship. But this was not necessarily the case. It is all right to be sad at the end of an intense and violent relationship. But don't let that sadness turn into a downward spiral of depression and anxiety. Even if it is unrealistic to expect to feel better immediately, retaining hope that things will improve is critical to a positive attitude. Chapter 4: What to Expect After Leaving. Expectations and responses. Depending on the situation, the narcissist may reply in a variety of ways to what the victim has to say when ending the relationship. Some narcissists will try all they can to convince the victim to change their mind and return to the relationship, while others will simply walk away without a second thought, accepting that this person will not succumb to their manipulations. They will move on to someone more vulnerable. It's possible that the narcissist will shower their party attempting to leave the relationship with compliments and apologies. Or they may become upset or threaten the victim. The victim should put together a plan for dealing with potential reactions to maintain their position and successfully leave the relationship. Bargaining. When a person tries to end a relationship with a narcissist, the narcissist may perform the acts of begging, pleading, or promising that they'll do better in the future. The most frequently heard phrase is, "Please, just give me another chance." In the beginning, an apology will be sincere, and the narcissist will say exactly what the victim wants to hear in order for the relationship to continue and their conduct to remain under control. It's critical for the victim to understand the boundaries of what they can emotionally handle before attempting to end the relationship. Setting explicit limits sends a powerful message to this person that the victim is prepared to end the connection permanently. When bargaining fails, the narcissistic partner may resort to blaming the victim. Blame game. In the blame game, one of the most prevalent tactics is for the narcissist to point out the victim's own shortcomings in the relationship. They may falsely accuse their partner of doing something that they are actually doing, and they speak in a manner that is purposely meant to insult the victim's feelings or their character. Even in the event of a divorce, the victim may find themselves believing their spouse's opinion of them to be accurate at some point. Regardless of whether or not their charges are true or false, this approach does not promote a productive working relationship between the two parties. When someone is blaming someone else, it is possible that they will use gaslighting or projection as form of emotional manipulation and control. For example, narcissists may state something to the effect of, "You're the one who cheated first," even if they were the only one who had been dishonest in the relationship up until that point. To be successful in combating victim blaming while attempting to end a relationship with a narcissist, the victim must make every effort to keep their reactions, and even their facial expressions, to an absolute minimum. This can be accomplished in several ways, one of which is by convincing the person that their attacks are ineffective. Love bombing. By showering the victim with attention, affection, and even presence, the narcissist attempts to extend the duration of the relationship. The practice of love bombing is typical among people who are on the extreme end of the narcissistic spectrum, and they do it when they believe their victim is about to end their relationship with them. The act of love bombing can either make the victim feel like the bad guy for ending the relationship, or make them question whether the relationship was truly that horrible in the first place. As soon as they have chosen to end the relationship with the other person, the victim should remove themselves from the situation. Love bombing is a component of the narcissistic control cycle. In most cases, a narcissist who has mistreated someone in a relationship by delivering love bombs will not cease doing so on their own. Starting a smear campaign. After the victim has ended their relationship with someone who has the tendency to overstate their own self-importance, the narcissist may begin to spread ugly tales about them. In order to destroy their reputation online, people with narcissistic tendencies may distribute false information about their victim's character or portray them as a horrible person in order to gain attention and convince people that they themselves are a victim. The true victim must remember that they have absolutely nothing to do with this scenario, and it is the narcissist's own insecurities that are driving their behavior. For this difficult act of acceptance, it is critical to have someone they can rely on to guide them through it. Obtaining professional assistance and soliciting the assistance of loved ones who are supportive of their decision to end the relationship can be beneficial strategies. It is important for the victim to surround themselves with people who believe in the reality of their victimhood and who mistrust the word of the narcissist. Letting go when you've been let go of. In the event that the narcissist ends the relationship with the victim before the victim has a chance to confront them, it is natural to feel upset that they did not have as much control over the end of the relationship as they thought they could. Even if one partner had a greater say in how the relationship ended than the other, getting over a breakup can be difficult. It's possible that a narcissist will appear to move on too quickly after the end of the relationship. Cutting all ties with the narcissist and understanding that it is not their fault will help the victim better move on. It is advisable, if possible, to fully cut off any communication with this individual. This technique could include prohibiting all in-person communication and blocking them on all social media sites. It is crucial for the victim to remember that they are not liable for the actions of anyone other than themselves. In the absence of any action on their own part, they are not to blame for the troubles in the relationship, nor the actions of the narcissist after the relationship is over. A positive attitude toward themselves is essential in order to make the transition more bearable. The victim must allow themselves permission to mourn the end of the relationship. Even if the relationship was a source of misery for the person, it is acceptable to feel sad or lost when it comes to a conclusion. When a romantic engagement comes to an end, many people experience grief. It is absolutely acceptable to be sad after the termination of a relationship. The end of a relationship is also an opportunity for the victim to rediscover their own identity. They may be able to rediscover the things in their life that bring them joy. Perhaps their travels will lead them to reconnect with an old friend or reawaken an old passion. Knowing exactly what they want and need in a relationship is a critical step in the process of finding a successful relationship after departing from a narcissist. Ending the relationship will provide an opportunity to consider the characteristics they want and do not want in a new partner. What should be done next? Even though breaking up with a narcissist isn't easy, the benefits of doing so can be significant. They include increased self-esteem, confidence, and overall pleasure in one's other personal relationships. In the hands of a mental health professional, particularly one who specializes in assisting people who have suffered from PTSD, or who have been in relationships with destructive, narcissistic personalities themselves, the victim can heal and learn the skills needed to form emotionally positive connections in future relationships. Chapter 5: The Journey to Recovering. Navigating the aftermath of a split with a narcissist is considerably different from navigating the aftermath of any other form of a breakup. What a narcissist does when a relationship ends may leave the victimized party feeling puzzled, upset, and even afraid of what they have done to you or will do next. People who have survived narcissistic relationships often describe feeling shell-shocked. Everything they believed about human nature and relationships has been turned on its head. Their preconceptions about the other party's devotion or honesty are completely without foundation. Their hopes for human connection may be destroyed in the face of narcissistic conduct, and they may feel hopeless. When it comes to recovery from narcissistic abuse, the following are the most crucial steps the recovering victim should take. 1. Take actions to reduce your feelings of anxiety. You should begin working on minimizing your feelings of dread and anxiety as soon as possible. Recalling a narcissist's anger can be upsetting. It is the narcissist's goal for you to be terrified and agitated so that you are unable to think rationally. If you comply with their requests, you will be more ready to give in to their demands. Narcissists believe that you should feel bad about yourself since you made them feel like a failure by noticing their manipulations. When a narcissist has been humiliated, they might become frightening and menacing. You shouldn't believe the narcissist if they deliver scary predictions regarding your future. However, you shouldn't ignore their threats. Take prompt action to protect your physical and psychological well-being, and do so without delay. Taking action can assist you in diffusing your feelings of anxiousness. Ensure that the doors to the house are secured and that you have opened a separate bank account, closed or deleted your name from all of the shared credit cards, and stop making requests for support from the narcissistic partner. Keep any threatening emails and messages that the narcissist may have sent to you, and keep copies of any verbal or written threats in a notepad in case you need to use them as proof of the narcissist's behavior if dangerous threats occur. Ideally, you should do these activities during the first few days of separation. However, due to fear, shell shock, or lack of control over their environment, many people do not contemplate doing these things for several weeks or even months after the separation. As soon as you begin putting ideas into action, you will begin to feel more confident and in control. You must first calm your anxieties if you are shivering, unable to think straight, unable to eat, startling quickly, or overwhelmed by anxiousness. Your physical safety is important, and it is nearly impossible to improve your emotional safety when your physical safety is threatened. 2. Take a few long, deliberate breaths to relax. You can also try meditation. The importance of paying close attention to your breathing cannot be overstated. Despite the fact that it may appear to be very simple, anxious people tend to hold their breath or hyperventilate excessively, which makes them feel more vulnerable. As a result, your brain, heart, and other essential organs may receive less oxygen, which may continue the cycle of anxiety. If you are not breathing, your freeze response will be activated as well. This occurs when your mind and body get frozen and shut down, making it difficult to think, remember information, or make rational judgments. When faced with the narcissist's demands, you may find yourself more willing to give in, forfeit your rights, or even beg the narcissist for a second chance in order to reduce your tension and panic at the time of the request. The ability to breathe is essential for maintaining your mental health as well as meeting your bodily needs. Identify a place that is both comfortable and serene to sit or lie down. Place one hand over your heart and the other over your diaphragm while taking deep breaths in and out. Breathe in slowly and notice your lower hand go out first, followed by your upper hand as your lungs fill with air when you take a deep breath. Allow your lungs to decompress as you exhale and your shoulders to relax. Count to 4 on the inhale and 4 again on the exhale. The vast majority of people find that doing this breathing technique 4 or 5 times is sufficient to start the relaxing process. According to your level of distress, you may need to repeat this technique for 10 to 20 minutes. It will assist in clearing your mind sufficiently to allow you to think more clearly. It helps to restore the functionality of your cognitive functions to normal levels. Using a relaxation or sleep medication for a short period of time may be effective if you find that your body remains rigid to the point that it is unpleasant to breathe and you are unable to sleep. When used properly, meditation can help you maintain control over your panic attacks. Disclose what you are going through to your doctor so they can assist in creating the best course of action for you. 3. Seek professional help. Remember that you do not have to deal with this situation alone. There is nothing more important than having someone who can listen to you so that you may decompress, unload your swarming thoughts, and get back on your feet. In terms of a support team, a great resource is a therapist with extensive knowledge of narcissistic and caregiver behaviors, as well as a trusted friend or family member who is non-judgmental and does not provide unsolicited advice. Listening to self-help books, joining a support group, and staying active by participating in at least one social activity per week are all great methods of recovering. If you find it difficult to ask for help, remember that you are in a severe situation, especially if the narcissistic person is threatening you. It is necessary for the well-being of your emotional and bodily well-being that you have the support you need. 4. Take a step back from the situation. The most effective approach for defending yourself against a hostile narcissist is to remove yourself from the situation as quickly as possible. The narcissist may despise you for doing so, but at this point, they're already engaged, and it's no longer your obligation to take care of their feelings. It is now vital to take into consideration only your own emotional needs. A common recommendation from attorneys to their victimized clients is to halt all communication with the narcissist and to route all conversations with the narcissist through them until the divorce or separation is finalized. However, attorneys note that their clients rarely heed this advice. The importance of this recommendation should be emphasized if the couple is married. The narcissist will use any and all methods possible to keep you emotionally upset and off balance with their words and actions until a final settlement has been reached. The absence of communication, texting, emailing, or other forms of connection is not enough to constitute disengagement in today's world, although the no-contact rule is critical. Emotional release is also required as part of the process. It is necessary for you to cease caring about what other people think of you in order to break free from the narcissist's grip. Furthermore, you must let go of any emotional, physical, and financial dependency on the narcissist that you may have previously had. Unfortunately, without legal intervention, it may take years before you are able to completely disengage from the situation if there are young children involved. You can, however, begin to emotionally separate yourself from the narcissist when you stop allowing them to act as your judge or definer, the person whose opinion is most important to you, and the person who has complete control over your emotions and thoughts. Instead of allowing the narcissist to define how you feel about yourself, disengage completely. This means recovering control of your life. As soon as you remove the narcissist from your life, you may notice a significant change in your mood, as well as an increase in optimism, creativity, and joy. 5. Maintain concentration on the task at hand. As you become less emotionally invested in the narcissist, your interactions with them, if required, may begin to take on a more business-like tone. Try to keep your emotional responses to a minimum and to keep your interactions focused on the specific matter at hand. Even if you don't care for someone, you should make every effort to keep a professional approach. It doesn't matter if you agree or disagree. There should be no name-calling or rude statements, nor should there be any violence. Following this method in your interactions with the narcissist will result in a more positive encounter. The narcissist may have been one of the closest and most trusted people in your life. Their replies may have mattered more to you than the responses of anybody else's. However, the narcissist may now regard you as a potential adversary of theirs. If you continue to expect that the narcissist will take your feelings or entreaties into consideration, you will almost surely be disappointed, and your requests will almost certainly result in disappointment and frustration. It benefits you to behave in a professional manner when interacting with the narcissist after the separation. Stay calm and collected, stay on topic, and resist the temptation to veer off into another topic of conversation. The corrupt behavior of the narcissist should not be interpreted as a reflection of your own weakness or inferiority. It is permissible for the general public to be made aware of the narcissist's genuinely awful side, provided such information is kept confidential. Narcissists fear that the truth about their behavior could be revealed. You used to be a source of support for the narcissist by keeping such behaviors disguised, but continuing to do so may now be detrimental for you. The fact that you have decided to come out of hiding may feel like a big relief to you, and it will allow the rest of the world to see you in a truer light as well. Do not indulge in gossip about the narcissist. Instead, simply discuss the facts and your own feelings. 6. Make certain to provide the finest possible care for yourself. Putting greater emphasis on combining physical activity, a nutritious diet, and adequate self-care in your daily routine can result in feeling more powerful and decreasing your feelings of anxiety as time goes on. Being proactive in caring for your body has a natural tendency to increase your self-esteem and prepare you to confront new challenges with greater confidence. Exercise helps to maintain healthy breathing patterns, deliver oxygen to your brain, and increase your heart rate. You can also go to the spa, soak in a hot tub, take a long bath, or do anything else that will help you unwind and relax. Make your physical well-being a top priority in your daily routine. You should also keep a journal to record your thoughts and feelings. You will be amazed at how quiet and encouraging it is once you have put your ideas and experiences on paper. When confronted with the huge change of a breakup with a narcissist, it can be helpful to sort through the confusion and figure out what you want to do next. Additionally, journaling works as a good memory trigger, which can aid you in stopping the process of forgetting and diminishing those bad experiences with the narcissist. Positive self-talk and reframing your thinking will help you feel more optimistic about the future. The chanting of, "I am strong," "I am loved," and/or "I am bold" can assist people who are experiencing low self-esteem in feeling better about themselves. Remember that you have little influence over the narcissist's behavior, but that you do have control over the outcome of a relationship and your own actions and reactions to the separation. You have control over what you do next and how you treat yourself. This power can be used to honor your desires, such as those for respect and happiness, as well as for a fulfilling romantic relationship. Forgive yourself instead of blaming yourself or criticizing yourself for how long you were mistreated. This will help you to feel better about the situation. Thank yourself for making the smart decision to end the relationship with the narcissist. The act of caring for yourself is not a selfish one. Rather, it is a simple question of common sense. Besides that, it will be beneficial to your friends, children, and other loved ones because it will lower their level of distress and concern for you. Here are some other things to keep in mind as you recover from narcissistic abuse. Even when someone has hurt you, it may be difficult to cease caring about them. But even if you are madly in love with someone, you must recognize that their behavior makes it unsafe for you to be in their company. The ability to separate yourself from the abuser and feel more autonomous may be facilitated by acknowledging and accepting this fact. The desire to hold on to the good times and wish you could go back in time is understandable when a relationship ends. It's vital to remember, though, that you don't have to give up on the person you care about in order to begin the process of healing. If you wait for the narcissistic person to change, your healing process can be significantly delayed. In some cases, members of the family may decide to lend their support to the abusive individual. Friends of an abusive ex-spouse may be sympathetic to the abuser's behavior. As a result of this, you may feel a great deal of confusion and pain. While you're working on your recovery, you should also avoid interactions with these people. Support groups provide the opportunity to speak up about the abuse you have experienced in a secure and confidential setting. In a support group situation, it can be quite therapeutic to share your story with others who are going through the same process of recovering from their trauma. A victim can carry their complex trauma with them wherever they go, whether they're looking for new work, making new acquaintances, or trying to mend shattered relationships or rebuild their identity after experiencing narcissistic abuse. This event may forever alter the course of their history. You'll be a completely different person after ending an emotionally abusive relationship. You may become tougher, more assertive, and even more compassionate as a result of this transformation. Depending on how long the abuser has abused you, you could be suffering from trauma for years or even decades. Consequently, it is not reasonable to anticipate that healing from narcissistic abuse may be accomplished in a matter of minutes or even hours. And you should not believe anyone who tells you that it can. It took the narcissist a long time to gradually erode your sense of self and the very foundations of your spirit, and it was not easy. Recovery from complex trauma and the treatment of PTSD should be ongoing endeavors. Most people do not have a realistic expectation of achieving complete liberation from their past. Attempting to snap out of narcissistic abuse with only the strength of your resolve is dangerous. Patients come to realize this as they go through the process of recovering from a traumatic event. Because it may be a long process, it is important not to delay treatment. The time for action is now, in the case of narcissistic abuse and PTSD. For those who develop PTSD as a result of their abuse, recovery may be a long, rocky road filled with anxiety and depression. In this case, it is important to get help from a therapist. People with PTSD, no matter the cause, have similar symptoms. Those who survive narcissistic abuse experience PTSD in much the same way as those who survive being under siege in war zones. The physical, emotional, and psychological causes may differ, but the mental experience of PTSD remains the same. People rarely hold themselves accountable for natural disasters, car accidents, or wars. But when it comes to narcissistic abuse and other forms of domestic abuse, the victims often consider themselves responsible. Because the narcissist abuse targeted your sense of self, your self-worth, and your intellect and spirit, recovery from narcissistic abuse is distinct from other types of healing. Narcissistic abuse can feel like the most prominent part of your life circumstances for a long time after the separation from the abusive individual. It is important to remember that narcissistic abuse does not have to define you or be the focus of your entire story. Recovery from narcissistic abuse is a difficult and time-consuming process. But with patience and perseverance, it is possible to make significant progress. Chapter 6: The Cheat Sheet. It is absolutely essential that the victim of narcissistic abuse works on their inner wounds so that they may no longer be triggered by a narcissist. This is the first step in becoming immune to them. Then, in the midst of the storm, they will appear clear, serene, and strong. Beginning to emerge as someone who understands who they are, both as an individual and as a person in a relationship, is a big step forward. Once they start feeling like themselves again, their truth and values will feel more solid, and their self-worth will become more ingrained. The fear of a narcissist trying to coerce them into giving up their power will no longer hold any appeal. In addition, the victim will be able to break free from the illusion that the narcissist is their source of self-worth, and that they are dependent on them to solve their issues and provide for their needs. Therefore, a recovering victim's most important duty is to emotionally develop and to claim the person who they truly are. Then, they may detach themselves from their past and simply speak and walk in truth and facts. They may, after full recovery, be able to release any and all concerns that emerge in regards to the narcissist as new issues arise. The cycle. The narcissistic cycle of abuse is quite similar to the cycle of abuse in most other domestic violence scenarios. The cycle contains a honeymoon phase, a tension-building phase, an abusive episode, and sporadic times of quiet interspersed between the cycles of abuse. It is important to note that there are certain differences among these stages. In the honeymoon phase, which occurs when the relationship is initiated, the narcissist may exhibit love bombing. They may shower their partner with gifts and favors, make them feel like they are giving them all of their attention, and provide declarations of love and dedication, very often early in dating. Something will happen at some point. The mask will be lifted for a short moment, and the victim will be able to see a different side of this person. They may catch them in a lie, notice inconsistencies between their words and actions, notice inconsistency in their availability, or observe them acting differently around different people. For example, pretending to be nice to someone's face before turning around and insulting them, all of which are red flags. Someone could call them out on their behavior or set a barrier to protect the victim during this transitory phase. This will not go down well in public. Instead of taking into consideration the sentiments or concerns of the victim or others who may notice their problematic behavior, the narcissist will go on to the tension-building or devaluing stage of the process. The primary line of defense for a narcissist is to flip the script on the victim, blaming them for all of the problems in the relationship, criticizing them and knocking down their self-worth, degrading or embarrassing them, and frequently using triangulation to ensure that they feel crazy or replaceable. They may say things like, "None of my previous partners or my friends' partners care that I harmlessly flirt with other people or stay out all night drinking." Their objective is to influence the victim and to invalidate their views and feelings, regardless of whether or not their statements are accurate. They may use phrases like, "You're being much too sensitive, crazy, or controlling," or "You're being way too controlling." This is where manipulation to cause the victim to question their reality, also known as gaslighting, frequently takes place. Often, the relationship will reach a breaking point, at which point another transitory stage will be initiated. During this period, the victim has the option of either setting terminal boundaries, such as quitting the relationship and going no contact, or being drawn back into the lunacy by the narcissist's excellent hoovering technique. However, the idea of terminating the relationship may not occur to them as they may be so wrapped up in the narcissist's drama that they don't realize what is happening to them. Apologies, pledges to change, and occasionally even actual efforts toward change, such as seeking help for a drinking problem or reading a self-improvement book you've suggested they read in the past, can characterize this period of the relationship. The purpose behind the narcissist's conduct is critical in this situation. If the abuser is using recovery milestones and acts as a means of impressing their partner and staying in touch with them if they have separated, it is likely that they are not actually in recovery from their abusive behavior. Narcissists have absolutely no incentive to change their behaviors. Others believe that they are inadequate and defective, whereas they believe they are immaculate. However, if the narcissist respects their victim's space and devotes a large amount of time to growth by getting therapy, there is a chance that real change could take place for them. In the end, it all boils down to whether or not they have the character and ability to see and pursue the truth. But because there is always someone who is prepared to put up with the narcissist's antics, most people do not change their ways. It's possible that at this point, the narcissist may dump one victim in favor of a new one, and the first victim may seek help and begin to understand why they decided to be with a person who is abusive to them in the first place. Immunity against narcissists. You can compare recovering from narcissistic abuse to taking care of your immune system. Having a healthy immune system is truly awe-inspiring. As long as they're in good working order, our immune systems will continue to defend us from all kinds of sickness and infection. It is entirely up to us to maintain a healthy immune system, unless you have an autoimmune disease. When you eat healthily and avoid substances that impair your defenses, your immune systems are strengthened. Maintaining a healthy routine contributes to a more resilient immune system. A healthy immune system can also be achieved by frequent exercise. This protective mechanism helps us feel better physically and mentally, and it is enhanced when you make a conscious effort to sleep properly at night. The way the immune system works here serves as an example of how a person could strengthen their defenses against narcissistic abuse. Of course, if their jobs don't require them to be around narcissists, they stay away from them. They have a negative impact on the ecosystem. Once a recovered victim is aware of the warning signs of narcissism, they can better identify the traits in their family members, friends, or coworkers, both in the form of supervisors and colleagues. In order to build up psychological resistance, a person recovering from narcissistic abuse must first come to terms with and value who they truly are. It may be considered surprising that a large number of people put their faith and allegiance in narcissistic leaders. However, narcissistic behavior easily draws in people who have not been exposed to it in the past and who do not recognize the warning signs. Despite the fact that most people are rarely given crumbs or given the opportunity to kiss the anointed, they want to be considered members of a leader or popular person's inner circle. They may sacrifice their identities for the sake of the narcissist. When they see the exterior trappings and the exercise of power over others, they believe that they are wonderful human beings. But this is not the case. One of the most effective ways to keep an attacker out is for the individual to build a safe haven within themselves that an abuser can't get into without their knowledge. They should build a series of routines and behaviors that a person may use on a regular basis to calm their body and mind. There are a number of ways to improve their health and well-being, including regular exercise and a healthy diet, as well as improving their health by getting enough sleep. Additionally, pursuing an artistic passion or other immersive hobbies can induce the incredible feeling of being inspired and empowered. They should search for and pursue their passions. They may be astounded by the results if they put this strategy into practice. The narcissist's arsenal of revenge, manipulation, deception, and downright cruelty will be less effective on a person who has a strong sense of self. Becoming adept at meditation in a comfortable way can also help. The practice can be guided meditation, chanting, light yoga with an emphasis on the breath, journaling, or any other method that works for the individual. Building a trusted group of friends and family members creates a supportive environment. If the individual is feeling down, tired, or burned out, or if they just want someone to talk to, they can turn to these people for assistance. Having a sympathetic ear to listen to their complaints is one of the most effective methods of psychological immunization against narcissists. Psychotherapy can help traumatized individuals form a therapeutic alliance with a professional, build trust, get a sense of being heard and understood, and create a safe and stable environment in which to heal. Those in recovery who do their homework and have faith in their therapist's observations and responses have a better chance of fully recovering from narcissistic abuse. Anytime the recovering victim is attacked verbally by someone they care about, whether it's their brother or sister or their ex-partner, it's important that they practice being cool and rational in the face of irrational assertions and judgments. They are also not obligated in the first place to respond in any way. Remaining silent in these situations might be quite advantageous if the narcissist thinks that the victim actually believes what they are saying. It's necessary to take a stand against an adversary at some point. Toxic queries and worries may be met with a wide range of responses, including angry comments. Individuals attempting to immunize themselves against narcissists should assert their thoughts in a concise and unambiguous manner. They should resist the urge to get back into contact with the narcissist. That is exactly what the narcissist is hoping for, to reel their victim back in. Learning to accept rejection. Even when someone a person cares about abandons them, the agony is heightened greatly when it comes from the hands of a narcissist. It's important to note, however, that in a normal relationship, one partner may decide to leave for a variety of reasons, including the discovery of something new or unplanned in their lives, the desire to seek a different lifestyle, or the desire to know more about themselves. Narcissists can influence their victims into thinking they are useless within a matter of days of starting a relationship with them, which can make it hard for the victim to leave the relationship and can make them feel worthless if the narcissist is the one to end the relationship. Someone can be said to have been rejected if they are pushed away from someone. There are few feelings worse than being rejected by a family member, a close friend, or a romantic partner, and the subsequent devastation that ensues. Even in the midst of the daily grind, rejection can take many forms. While rejection is a common part of life for all people, there are some types of rejection that are more difficult to handle than others. Rejection hurts because it affects the same neurological pathways in our brains that are affected by physical pain, according to some research. Ex-partners' photos and painful heat stimulation on the forearms were used in one study to test the effects of social rejection. Social rejection and physical pain, it turns out, activates the same parts of the brain. To be rejected is painful. Allow yourself to feel. It's better to feel and absorb all of the rejection's emotions than to suppress them all at once. A person's health suffers when they suppress their feelings and hold on to their bad moods. As with many other occurrences, people frequently tell those experiencing rejection that their feelings are insignificant and that they should just get over it. They should instead focus their efforts on creating safe spaces for people to express their feelings, including rejection, and learn to live with them instead of dismissing the pain and making everything falsely beautiful. It is best to spend time with people who accept each other as they are. Spending time with like-minded individuals that respect and accept each other helps build a positive environment. Maintaining some amount of social connection with family and friends is essential, even when a person is in the midst of a deep depression following a rejection. Following a rejection, the individual should stay confident in their own sense of worth and not let the rejection take away their feeling of being loved and adored. Although not everyone will like or accept them, that's okay. Their immediate surroundings will serve as regular reminders that they are appreciated and cherished. Self-love and self-care should be practiced. Having a positive relationship with yourself is quite important. You will become more robust in the future because of self-care activities. Make a list of all the wonderful qualities about yourself of which you are particularly proud. Focus on creating positive self-esteem by appreciating the parts of yourself that you find desirable. As a final step, you can construct a list of all of your achievements, big and small. Make a point of taking care of yourself. Keeping a journal or making art might help you express your emotions, as can taking a hot bath to unwind, or signing up for a fitness class like kickboxing to help get rid of some anger. Pushing out the people pleaser. Being a people pleaser isn't always a negative trait. Being a person who is concerned and compassionate is essential in sustaining strong connections with family and friends. In contrast, when an individual is trying to gain approval in order to boost their low self-esteem, or when they are pursuing the happiness of others at the expense of their own emotional well-being, it becomes a problem. Narcissists prey on individuals who exhibit people-pleasing behaviors. It is possible to stop being a people pleaser and to learn how to strike a healthy balance between the desire to make other people happy and the drive to make oneself happy without abandoning either. Combating people-pleasing tendencies can help an individual stay away from narcissists in the future. Set limits and restrictions. It is critical for an individual to be aware of their limitations, to establish clear boundaries, and to convey those limitations. They should explain what they're willing to take on in a straightforward and explicit manner. If someone appears to be asking for too much, they should tell them that their requests exceeds the scope of what they are able to provide and that they will not be able to assist them further. There are a variety of other approaches people can use to establish boundaries in their lives and to try to control their people-pleasing inclinations. For example, they might only accept phone calls during specific hours in order to limit the amount of time they are able to converse with people to whom they have trouble saying no. Furthermore, an individual may mention that they are only available for a certain length of time. Having control over not only what they are willing to do, but also when they are willing to do it, can be beneficial since it assures that they are in complete command of their actions. Begin with small steps. It might be difficult to make a drastic shift in beliefs and behavior, so it is frequently preferable to start small and build confidence from there. It can be tough for an individual to alter their own behavior patterns. In many circumstances, they will not only need to retrain themselves, but they will also need to concentrate on educating those around them on how to recognize and respect their boundaries. Therefore, it may be beneficial to begin with tiny measures that will help them work their way down the road to becoming less of a people pleaser. They can begin by saying no to tiny requests, then trying to express their opinion on something insignificant, and last, asking for something that they need or want. Saying no in the form of an email or text, for example, can be challenging. Then, they can gradually increase their confidence in telling folks no in person. They can practice in a variety of contexts or circumstances, such as while talking to salespeople, placing an order at a restaurant, or even dealing with coworkers to improve their skills. Once they begin to move away from their tendency to please others, they will develop greater confidence, which will allow them to regain control of their life. Establish their objectives and priorities. A person recovering from narcissistic abuse and attempting to squash their people-pleasing tendencies should focus on how they want to spend their future. They should think about who they want to spend their time with, what work they would like to accomplish, and what specific objectives they would like to achieve. Knowing their priorities might assist them in determining whether or not they have the time and energy to commit to a particular endeavor. They should take action if anything is draining their energy or consuming an excessive amount of their time. As they get better at setting boundaries and saying no to things they don't really want to accomplish, they will discover that they have more time to dedicate to things that are truly important to them. Practice makes perfect. Make use of positive self-talk. If a person finds themselves feeling overwhelmed or inclined to give in to others, they can use positive self-talk to strengthen their determination. They can remind themselves that they are deserving of some alone time each and every day. The accomplishment of their objectives is vital, and they should not feel forced to spend their time and energy on things that do not offer them joy. Don't waste time. In the event that someone asks a recovering people-pleaser for a favor, they should tell them that they need some time to consider the request. Giving their immediate approval can leave them feeling obligated and overcommitted, whereas taking their time to react to a request can offer them the opportunity to assess the situation and determine whether or not this is something they truly want to undertake. Before making a decision, they should ask themselves the following questions. How long do I think this will take? Is this something I really want to do? Do I have the time? Is it possible for me to complete this task? In the event that I answer yes, how stressed am I going to be? In addition, research has discovered that even a brief pause before making a decision improves the accuracy of decision-making. By taking a step back, the individual will be better able to assess whether or not this is something they want to pursue and have the time to do so. Analyze the situation. Another step in overcoming the tendency to please others is for the individual to be on the lookout for signs that other people are attempting to take advantage of their generosity. Are there people in their life who always seem to want something from them, but who are suddenly unavailable when they need them to reciprocate? Perhaps some people are aware of the people-pleaser's generous disposition and approach them because they know the individual won't say no to their requests. If the person can recognize that they are being coerced into doing something, they should take some time to examine the situation and decide how they want to respond. When dealing with repeat offenders, or those who keep insisting that they should assist them, regardless of whether or not that person making the request is a narcissist, they should be tough and direct. Stay away from making excuses. In order to avoid blaming others or making excuses for their inability to participate, it is vital for the recovering person to be direct when they say no. Once they begin to explain why they are unable to complete a task, they begin providing others with an opportunity to find flaws in their reasoning. For example, if a victim of narcissistic abuse explains that they are trying to stop being a people-pleaser to the person they are denying a request, that person may combat this reasoning by assuring the victim that they are not a narcissist, and therefore it should be okay for them to take on their request. This behavior is disrespectful to the person recovering from abuse. When the individual declines something, they should try to maintain a firm demeanor and resist the temptation to go into needless detail about their reasons for declining. It's important to remember that no is a complete statement. Of course, It is also important to remember that all relationships necessitate a certain amount of giving and take. A certain degree of reciprocity is required in order to maintain a robust and healthy relationship. A situation in which one person is constantly giving and the other is always taking frequently indicates that one individual is forgoing things that they require in order to ensure that the other individual has what they desire. However much someone likes gratifying people, it is crucial to remember that they should be making efforts to reciprocate by giving back in return. Help when you want to help. A person recovering from narcissistic abuse does not have to give up being considerate of others and saying yes to people when they are able. Those are desirable characteristics that can lead to the development of solid, long-lasting relationships. In order to succeed in finding balance, the person must first analyze their reasons for behaving the way they do and their personal ambitions. They should not make decisions solely out of fear of rejection or a need for other people's favor. Continuing to do good deeds, but doing so on their own terms, will help a person heal and grow. When it comes to kindness, no attention or rewards are required. All that is required is a desire to make things better for another person. Final words. A history of narcissistic relationships may contribute to an individual's experiences with future relationships, whether abusive or not, and whether romantic or platonic. A history of mental illness and/or addiction may also influence their experience. People who are in abusive relationships and who act as the abusive person in a relationship have often been exposed to these kinds of situations from an early age and have developed a tolerance for them as a result of their experiences with other narcissists. Making sense of their past and current circumstances is vital to gaining insight into their own personality and making changes in their conduct. People who are narcissists look like everyone else, but they are different. They may look good and be charming, good-natured and friendly to people who look at them, but they're not. A monster lurks beneath their surface. It is hard to be nice to people who are narcissists because they act like kids and manipulate people. They think they should get what they want, even if they haven't worked hard for it. They are willing to go to any length to achieve it. Even if you explain yourself clearly, if they don't understand you, they will become enraged or even despise you completely. They will say bad things about you to your family, friends, coworkers, and even your kids. As a result, they will spread rumors about your mental health, your ability to be manipulative or a liar, or your sexual exploits, and so on. They will do everything they can to make you look bad. In the future, they will try to get you fired, put you in an exile group, and have you kicked out of your family. You and your good things will be killed by these narcissistic lies. Anyone can be a narcissist's target if they have what they want. This could be money, skills, friends, a family, or anything else. In order to make other people unhappy, narcissists work very hard to make them unhappy. Even if the person they are making unhappy is their own parent, child, sibling, friend, or spouse. Narcissists can't stand when other people are happy and work very hard to make them unhappy. To hide the truth, they will use projection and other crazy-making actions. The victim will no longer be able to even remember what it is they are being accused of. A person is capable of healing themselves. Humans have both the capacity to suffer and the capacity to heal. Healing occurs when we accept the larger patterns at work in our lives, fight the denial, recognize the truth of narcissism, and move through grief and trauma on the path to a healthier and happier state of being. If you enjoyed this audiobook and you've learned about how to recover from narcissistic abuse, An honest review is always appreciated and will help me reach new listeners just like you who struggle with narcissistic abuse. Good luck on your journey. Eva Spencer.
We appreciate you tuning in to one of our captivating audiobooks. For more immersive experiences, here is another audiobook we're certain you'll enjoy. Don't forget to show your support by liking this video, sharing what you loved about this audiobook in the comments section below, and subscribing for more captivating audiobooks like this. Thanks for being a part of our audiobook community.